After this, I have to do my actual job for like 3 or 4 hours before we do more podcasting later tonight.
Oh, me too.
I'm uh, I'm not very excited about it. My boss's boss asked me to volunteer to do something, and I agreed. And then now I realize that the time commitment of what I've agreed to do is decent sized, and it doesn't actually help me sell anything.
Mm.
Like I'm sure it is absolutely me helping them out.
Were you voluntold?
Well, he was like, we have to do this new thing, and we need salespeople to test it. And I think you'd be really good at that, and I'd love it if you do this for me. And I'm like, sure. And then I get on the thing, and they're like, okay, well, before we can start this, here's the 5-hour training course you have to go through. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
that's
that's the
not like I have actual stuff to do that like generates revenue and gets me paid. All right, so we're live here, and we'll go. If people are here, hello,
Hello.
you beautiful people that wake up not even remotely early on a Sunday morning to watch us.
It depends on the time zone.
That's true.
Yeah, it was. Did
Somebody got up early.
You see the time conversion for our buddy in New Zealand?
Mhm.
He's like, I don't want to watch you guys at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, that's fair, that's reasonable.
No.
Good news, we're available later.
Yeah, it's a recorded format.
Well, I told him we'd record it just for him.
We'll pre-record it, make sure it's good, so not to let down.
Oh, dog
Dogs are playing.
Dog will make a noise. Okay. Here we are. Someone says oi. Well, oi to you too, good sir. Or are you saying oil? Because oil would be a weird thing to yell at me. It's been so long since I've seen Colin. I can't wait to see him and yell oil at him.
I'll have to go to this podcast and do it.
Mitch's background is sweet. You're right.
Do I have a background?
You do have a background.
All right.
I have one. I have one that has a coffee
Starting
mug.
to look like a sisters podcast here.
Mine has a coffee mug that says geek on it. That's my contribution.
That's pretty good. Well, there's also the little. I like the little plug that just comes up and goes.
Yeah, that's actually. That's because I use this for note taking all day long every day, and so I leave the screen on, and then it dies. So I have to have it plugged in.
I actually think oh, go ahead.
No, please.
I was just gonna say, I think your background looks like one of the pre-canned ones that you could grab. That makes it look like your house is clean.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is definitely my house.
I think it's so funny because all these conference calls I'm on, there's so many people that just sit in these really important meetings with just trash everywhere behind them. Just like, like I was in an hour-long meeting with somebody who had bags of McDonald's like all over the thing behind him.
Oh, wow.
Like, just go throw that away. It's not a big deal. Oh, jeez. Sometimes Colin only comes out of the left ear, and I don't know why that is.
Isn't that the wrong microphone being?
Yeah, I'm gonna go check that before we get started. Make sure I'm on the right microphone. Camera, yes. Microphone, default communications device, huh? Yes.
There we go.
What?
Joining Colin in our perfectly manicured homes. There's one that looks like a gym locker room. I'll throw that one on at work every once in a while. I'll be like, oh yeah, I just got finished my workout. What's going on, guys? Like,
Okay. Did I fix the thing? Am I coming out of both sides of the head for everybody else? For the for the co-hosts?
yeah, you sound fine to me. But we usually hear something different than the people do.
Well, I just don't know.
Well, because I think Skype is picking up the correct microphone, and then it's whatever software is pushing to Twitch gets the wrong one.
Oh,
is what's happened in the past.
What if I go like this? Okay. All right. Well, I am recording 2 different tracks of audio for me, according to the audio mixer. So that leaves me fairly uncertain how to fix this problem.
Have you tried sacrificing a goat?
Oh, you know what you need? The sacred oils,
Yep.
which
I
people
don't
tried to
think.
provide to you earlier, and you didn't take. So that's your problem.
Oh, I have an idea.
Maybe if we all collectively pray for Colin's machine spirit, it'll go away.
Hello? 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 Okay. Can you hear me? Oh. Can you hear me now?
Good.
Mhm.
Okay. I don't think I fixed anything, but I tried things, so. Okay. I am sorry that you guys can only hear me from your left ear. We're going to have to roll with that. And I will make a note right here that is new microphone, because I think that's literally what's wrong. I don't know. Actually, to be honest, I don't know what's wrong, but I'll tell you that sometimes when I'm sometimes when I'm editing the podcast, sometimes I'm much louder through one channel than the other, and I don't know how to move that.
You sound good right now to me. Like, I get very clear, crisp Colin. Nothing too over the top or anything.
Oh, you know what I should check one last thing is microphone setting in Windows and make sure that it's not like... Sometimes on my Mac, my headphones get swapped so all the more audio is coming to the left than the right. Let's just go to microphone really quick and make sure that's not a thing that's happening. It says... Oh, there's no setting that is what I was looking for. Okay, it is what it is. I have a fancy background. It's called my house, Seth. Okay, so we have our agenda. I think we're ready to roll. You guys ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, it's the mugs? I don't think that's true.
Yeah, they're pulling the audio to the left.
They're definitely stealing the show.
Mm-hmm. Welcome to Best in Faction.
A competitive Warhammer 40k podcast.
I'm Colin.
I'm Mitch.
And I'm Chuck.
And this is episode 83 as we aggressively approach episode 100. We approach it as though it has not screened itself appropriately.
I feel like it's a very confident stride. I don't like it's just every 2 weeks we're like, yep, we're there.
Here we come. Yeah.
You
gotta plan out your turns.
I guess I should do the math, huh? On when we're gonna actually what time of year we're gonna get there, because I think it's gonna be Christmas, right? It's 34 episodes. 34 episodes. 34 weeks. 34 weeks, right?
Oh, is it 34?
Well, 17 episodes.
Oh, 17. Yeah.
It's 34 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We're like a quarter-ish into the year, so 30 probably must be fall then. Well, my intention is to do a live party and recording for episode 100. I don't know where we'll do it, but anybody who wants to will be able to drive out and watch, and then we'll have a party afterwards. We'll celebrate Biff Pod's 100th birthday, and I think we'll party with anybody who wants to party, unless you're a jerk, and then we'll send you home, and I think that's reasonable.
I mean, I'm in the room. I get it. I won't come. It's fine.
By party, we mean play 40k, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, we could do that. I could just set up a whole bunch of tables, and we could just like record, and then just say, "Okay, go play." Like that's a thing that I could totally do. That'd be really, really neat. Okay, so welcome everybody. This is episode 83. It does not have a snazzy name yet. And here's what we'll be talking about today. I have a little bit of an update on Charity Hammer for y'all. We're going to talk about the Drukhari leaks, and we're going to talk about my first tournament in 14 months, I think, maybe 13 months. that I went to yesterday, and we're also going to talk about hobby lag, which is a very real thing right now. After we've done all of that, we're going to do some lightning round hot takes from our. We're gonna some questions that none of us hopefully have looked at. I'm looking at you, Mitch.
I don't know what you're talking about.
There was Mitch had insomnia previous time and just like went through all the questions and answered them, and I'm like, that's not. So
It was efficient, is what it was.
It was
Give me
efficient.
one thing, be efficient.
Preparation is important,
Yes, that's right.
despite how we normally have to approach this.
Yes. Despite our normal approach to the podcast, we might try actual preparation in the future. Okay. Intro. Do we have any significant news we want to talk about before we jump into the agenda? Anybody have anything they want to talk about?
I mean, those models though that they showed.
Yeah.
GW continues to just
alien.
make incredibly attractive models.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of the? Forget the rules. What do you guys think of the Sisters tank? What do you think of it visually, aesthetically?
I'm a little medium on it. I don't like the turret very much, but I think I'm just going to put some like candles and more torches and like sisters it up a little more, and I think it's going to be great.
What do you think, Mitch?
10 out of 10, I love it. I think
Really?
it's the right balance of like mainline battle tank and Baroque cool sister stuff. Like for me, I think the Exorcist looks amazing. I think the Immolator looks amazing. I would never want to assemble or build more than one of those models. There's just too much there, which is
In the middle
fine.
of painting one, and I can confirm that is not something you want to do a lot of. There are so many details on that thing.
Well, and so I look, and that's sort of been my thing with Sisters in general is like when I look at Sister, because I'm trying to figure out exactly what Sisters army I'm going to build. I mean, it's made a lot easier right now that I can't get any of the models anyway, so I can just theoretically figure it out. But I am I'm drawn to hordes and I'm drawn to vehicle spam, and either way, I'm like that is so much painting. It is so much little detail work everywhere, and I think that they really nailed. Like, there's a ton of amazing detail. I was screenshotting a few spots of the video for our Discord and talking about how much, like, if you look at the one-shot missile, it's got like wings on it and like all these really cool details. I love it. The main thing I love is that the storm bolter on top of the turret with the sister behind it actually looks like some sort of like gunnery emplacement, like it would on a tank, as opposed to it's just this little storm bolter stuck on. And there's no like I like the ammo boxes. I like that they kind of have added. It has sort of that guard thing of like, yeah, we'll give you some sandbags or whatever else you want to put on there to give it that extra flavor of like these are operating in the field, and that. Whereas I feel like the Immolator and Exorcist look amazing, but they're showpieces, right? They're always supposed to look perfect. Whereas I want to put some dirt and mud effects on the is it Castigator or whatever the name of it is?
I think that's the name, Cascadator.
Yeah.
I think it's a high quality model, and I appreciate where Mitch is coming from on all the detail. I think it's a Predator that the sisters are like, oh man, this doesn't have enough braziers on it, right? Like they're like, we need some open flame burning torches on this Predator, and then we're good to go. Like it just doesn't feel like it has any Sisters originality to me at all. It looks literally like somebody took a model I don't really think is that amazing and just put some bullshit on it to make it Sisters. That's my take on it. I wish it looked more different and more specific to Sisters.
Argument back would be that it fluff-wise, it's coming from the same STC as the Predator.
Okay.
And so it should look like a variant of that, because that's the whole idea between Imperial stuff is they don't invent their own stuff. They find standard template constructs and they just adapt. Yeah, they print it off and they might adapt it a little bit, but even that might be considered techno heresy.
Fair enough.
So I like that it feels like a Predator tank. I like that it looks way better than any Predator tank that exists.
Colin disagrees with you so much he's out.
That's fair.
Yeah, it's interesting. I looked at it and looked over the pieces, and I've just finished
building
building a bunch of sister stuff. So I feel like if I had a Predator kit and an extra Immolator kit, that I could make that model right now.
Yeah.
And that it gives you that feeling because of that.
Yeah.
We'll see. I might pick one up on Thursday and actually do it.
Someone named Beard Zone says he's with me on this, and if he's got his name, Beard is in his name, he's probably an expert on everything.
Makes sense.
All right, so we're going to try to adjust something to make the podcast better here. And what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to move the camera this way. More.
He's trying to
things?
cut out the mugs, guys. The mug
No,
game.
no, no, it's better
2021.
than that. It's better than that. Here we go. Did I do it? Nope, not yet. Okay, it's not going to work out. I was trying to let Gus be in the show as well.
Well, there we go.
Oh, there he is.
Okay. There we go.
Just gonna
Perfect.
sit there and stare at you like, why aren't we playing?
All right. I feel like I've just made the show significantly better.
Finally, the fourth guest we needed.
Exactly. He has one employee of the month here at the house for 12 months consecutive. So he's
I like
pretty he's pretty impressive. He looks so sleepy. Okay. So yeah, I'm glad they're getting a new tank, and I'm glad it has lots of shots because we've seen that the sisters actually have a bit of a problem if they have to kill some big things as well as a bunch of little things, right, Chuck?
Yeah, well, it's part of that is I wasn't doing the mortifiers, right? So mortifiers help fix that a bit as well, as far as like horde control. But this is another way to do that, and it's nice that they're not relegated to like this is your one horde control option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things like Necrons are weirdly hard for sisters because they don't have the ability to like take 20 dudes off the table.
Right. Right. Okay. Let's talk about Charity Hammer a little bit. I don't think there's any other news. I'm all in on Drukhari, but
Well,
we'll
I mean,
talk about that.
there's that whole Centaur faction that is coming to AOS. I feel
yeah.
like that's really important for us.
Yeah, but if we
Well,
start
I'm looking
talking
forward
about
to
that, the
this.
rest of the podcast will quickly become Centaur related, and I don't think
That's
I feel
true.
like we should get farther through our agenda. I do
Fair enough.
before everything becomes Centaur related. I did appreciate the what was it? Anatomically correct Centaur stuff where the human it's actually 50% human and 50% horse that someone was posting. Because like an actual Centaur is like 30% human. And then the falling over, can't walk. This was great. Okay, so let's talk about Charity Hammer. I am optimistic that when the government says that every adult who wants one will be vaccinated by the end of May, I am optimistic that that is a real sentence that is real. At least where I live, that should be a real thing because we have a fairly COVID responsive area. So I'm presuming that if I schedule 40K events after May, and I have room for it, and I'm other things to consider, I'm presuming that that's a safe idea. So under that assumption, we have begun planning actual Charity Hammer. And when I say we've begun planning, what I actually mean is that there were 2 o'clock in the morning. I woke up and couldn't go back to sleep last week, and I had my iPad with me, and so I spent 2 hours planning Charity Hammer. That's what I actually mean. And then I started talking to everybody else about my ideas. That's actually how Charity Hammer normally starts. So it's part of the tradition. The original idea for Charity Hammer happened at 3 o'clock in the morning, so that seems fine. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna tentatively hold Charity Hammer on August 5th through 8th. Those are the dates. Put them in your thing. That should be, unless I'm being really silly, that should be Thursday through Sunday. If it's not, someone in the chat let me know and we'll adjust. But what we're going to do is we're going to do Thursday to Sunday, and we're going to start streaming at 2 o'clock on Thursday this year, rather than starting 2 o'clock on Friday. The reality is that everyone wants to get here during the week anyways. A lot of people do, at least, to save on airfare. And if they're all here already, they play the whole time anyways, so we might as well be on stream. I don't know that all 3 streams will be live for that entire time. That will depend on how many people we have coming. So, because I have to staff the middle of the night podcasts, streams. So Thursday to Sunday, part of that, a big bulk of it, will be the hardest ever GT. So we've done the hardest ever RTTs in the past. Now we're looking at doing a GT, and not just a GT, 32 people, single elimination. So it's the first round's messy. It's 16 games. And then after that it's easy. 16, then 8, then 4, then 2, then 1. Right? Wait, is that right? 16 games, 8 games, 4 games, 2 games, 1 game. Yeah.
Yep.
So here's how we're going to handle that. So I'm going to invite 22 of the best players in Ola 40K to come out here. It's going to include the Art of War guys. That's 4 or 5 of them. Some of the new people we're talking to is we're trying to get Brad Chester out here. I like him a lot. I enjoy his online presence, so that'd be great. We're trying to get Scary to come if he can. We've talked to him. The Canadians coming is more complicated because of the border rules. Let's see, who else are we talking to? I'm talking to Dustin Henshaw about coming. He's a Canhammer. He's on the Canadian WTC team, and he's a big GSC and Tyranid player that I know. But anyways, the Art of War guys, all the normal people, Michael Tempe, all the people, Danny, the Falcon, all the people that normally come, Jim Vessel, everybody's pretty much on board with our plan. What we're going to do is we're going to make a no-go decision 2 months previous. June 7th, I think, is the arbitrary date I put on my calendar to make a no-go decision. So 32-person GT. The first round, we'll probably have you go. Oh, sorry, I skipped a step. 22 people, okay? The other 10 people are going to be filled by the 10 best local players we can find. And the idea there is, in that first round, lots of them will probably lose, not because they're bad, but because they're not as good as some of the people that are traveling in. But it's fun to mix in some people that aren't, quote, 40K celebrities, unquote, and you have to put that in quotations or it's not real.
Man, I cringed so hard I think I ruptured a disc.
Yeah, I know. Careful, bitch. You don't need more chronic pain.
Yeah. Stop hurting me, Colin.
So the idea there is that while many of them won't win, at the same time, it means less people have to travel out here to do a 32-person GT. But also, it's the March Madness thing where the first seed is playing the 16th seed, and people love that because the 16th seed could win. That's what's fun about it. So, like, what if Nick Nanavati lost to somebody local that you guys don't know in the first round of the GT? Wouldn't that be a hell of a story? So that's the idea there. So here's
there
how
goes
we're
everyone's challenge bracket.
Right, and destroys everyone's challenge bracket. Fred says, "I've checked with the wife. I can make it in August."
Oh, that's nice of him.
I appreciate that, Fred. Not an open invitation to everyone. So here's what we're going to do. A month previous, in July, I'm going to hold a GT. Stephanie and I are in agreement that I'm holding a GT. We are not in agreement about whether it's here or at a store. We have not agreed on that. I want it to be here because I want to stream 2 of the tables. So probably here, might be weather, a little bit weather, I don't know. So we're gonna do it. We're gonna do a GT, and it's gonna be 28 people from the Pacific Northwest and anyone else who wants to drive here. And from that GT, the top 10 people will earn their spot as seeds 23 through 32 at Charity Hammer. So you come to the GT, you do moderately well, and then you get invited to Charity Hammer. That's how that works. And what's fun for all of you that are going to be watching and listening is that we're going to try to stream 2 tables of that GT. So yeah, if there's 28 people, there's 14 tables. The top 2 tables will be streamed, which means you'll get to know the people at that GT, at that local GT, and you'll get to know them and follow them and then watch them play at Charity Hammer. So you'll kind of have this little bit of a buildup of a story. We're also talking about doing like 30-second players spotlight videos on YouTube that are like, hey, I'm Colin and I've been playing actually since I was 15, but I took 20 years off. You're like a little bit of a story just so you kind of know the people, and we're going to do post-game interviews as well of how those games went. So some more human content where you can get to know the players a bit better. So GT feeding Charity Hammer GT. Also at Charity Hammer, if the Canadians can come, we're going to also imitate a US versus Canada WTC match, which should be pretty fun. If anything, I want you guys to get a chance to see how the matchmaking goes in an 8-person team tournament, and then match up those games. So that's some of the fun stuff for Charity Hammer. We'll be giving lots away. I am talking to the people at Charity Hammer, and there is a chance, not even remotely a promise, but there's a chance that one of the Penny Arcade guys will come play 40K with someone. So it's their charity, so that'd be super great. Oh yeah, let's talk about. They want me to talk about Gus Cam. So, we have found a GoPro-sized camera that can connect to Wi-Fi that will fit on Gus's collar. And we are discussing whether for portions of Charity Hammer there should be a picture-in-picture box that literally just shows what Gus sees as he runs around Charity Hammer, playing and loving on everybody and
I
jumping.
mean, I think we mainly are going to see just an indictment of how much dogs don't like Adam Camilleri. Like, it's just, that's all it's going to be.
I'm there for that.
I'm not saying we shouldn't do it. We should expose this truth.
Well,
It's the hard-hitting reporting people come to this podcast for.
Gus's way of showing love for people is to get on top of them. And I think that, and he is bigger than Richard Sigler, so I think that the camera is a good idea just for the point in the day where Gus mauls Richard Sigler with his love. I feel like that's really the footage we want to catch. I have so much love for you, I have to now stand on top of you while you sit in this chair. Okay.
Normally you pay extra for that.
Okay, cool. So that's a little bit on Charity Hammer. Certainly doing it. It's going to be great. We're going to do commentators. Like all the stuff we did at Hammering Out Cancer Plus is what's going to happen. It's going to be 3 streams. My guess is those 3 streams will be the Biff Pod, Art of War, and Ken Hammer. Will be the 3 streams for that. If there's any questions about Charity Hammer, go ahead and hit me with them in the in the stream chat, and we'll answer those. But in general, that's what's happening, and I'm pretty flippin' excited about it. The question will be, do we then continue in January, or does it become a summer event? There's lots to figure out from there. Right now, I'm merely just trying to figure out how to do it. That's just what I'm trying to figure out. Our goal is going to be $25,000. That's what we're going to try to raise. And we have a number of people that have had beards for like 20 years and stuff that are willing to shave. So we could have some excitement there. Okay. Do you guys have anything else you want to say about Charity Hammer or ask?
I think we should invite Mitch Beard and make him have to shave off his last name. Because he's had that his whole life. Like,
There's documentation for that.
Yeah, that sounds complicated. He also just moved to another country, which I think makes it unfairly difficult for him.
Well.
Okay. I would like to talk a little bit about Drukhari. So I have
5 minutes.
What's that?
5 minutes,
we've
go.
got 5 minutes.
Yeah. I have, I think, all of the rules. I have also pre-ordered the codex because the copy of the rules I have is obviously not legal. I have a copy of the rules. It is not from anybody that's going to get anybody in trouble. It was openly posted on the internet. And I am all in. I have read the things. I am all in. I am in no way positioned to give you guys any sort of codex review, any detail. I can't talk about any lists. I am just way too early. But I do want to talk in general about Drukhari, and then I want to give you guys a few things to think about as you're going through that book. Reading a book for the first time that's a new codex is actually a bit of a skill, and we can potentially save you some time on that. So I'll give you guys...
bringing 3 Tesseract vaults to a tournament.
Well, we both thought that was a great idea.
No, that's my point. We have already made these mistakes for you.
Yes.
You don't need to make them.
Well, there's stuff like everybody thought Thundercav were going to be this amazing thing when they were the Space Wolf book, and then you deploy them for your first game, and you're like, oh, these take up way too much space, right? Like, there's weird stuff like that you guys can actually like. When the Orc book came out, Chuck and I got really worried about tractor cannons, and no one ever took them. Like, there's a lot of that when a new book comes out. So let's first talk just in general about the fact that this is really different. The Drukhari Codex is very different from the other 9th edition codexes. It is very fragile, and there is limited options for durability. And I would say more so than anything else. Well, I mean, Death Guard and Dark Angels are obviously inherently durable. But of the new books of 9th, I think this is the most fragile. Do you think that's fair, guys?
By quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's also fast. And it also has a lot of tricks and a lot of tools. And it's also probably the most complicated army to build. Because you have triple patrol is rewarded. And so you can have, like, I've got my Cabal unit, my Cabal detachment, and my Witch detachment, and my Coven detachment. Mm-hmm. All of their rules they read like 3 completely different mini codexes that you're putting together into a trench coat and calling an army. And then there's the Real Space Raider, where you can put all of that into one detachment, and it somehow all works. So, like, there's a lot of complexity to the book, added to by the fact that the best witch rules are the ones that are coming in the campaign book on the same day. We're going to call that Day 1 DLC. Which is a little, which I'm sure is because of supply chain issues, and GW didn't actually plan to have those two things released on the same day.
The plan was Death Guard. We're going to have Day 1 DLC.
What it was?
Back in December. Yeah, that was the original plan.
Oh wow, people hate Day 1 DLC. I speak as a video gamer. So it's pretty interesting. There's lots of good in there. There's very little of the stuff that was good getting just nerfed into the ground. Like, there's very little of that. The stuff that was good before, Ravagers, Grotesques, Venoms, like, it's all fine. Like, Venoms are good, Racks are great, and they were good before. So, like, the stuff that was good is still good. A lot of the stuff that was bad is also good. There's a lot of tool set stuff, like, what are they called, guys? Mandrakes, right? Mandrakes have a massive toolkit data sheet. They can just, I want to redeploy, and they can just leave the table and come back somewhere else. Like, there's a bunch of that, of just tricks and things. As you're reading through it, try to think about, so this is where my advice comes in. Try to think about more than just how much does this kill. And here's a great example of that. People are very excited about Hellions. I am also very excited about Hellions. Hellions are better gene stealers for slightly more points. They are crazy fast. They are crazy fast. They have a bunch of attacks at strength 4 with AP. Because of the way the book's written, you can give them all types of different buffs. You can make them hit harder. You can make them a tiny bit more durable, not a lot. They're fast. They're just cool. They have a stratagem when they fly. They have a stratagem when they fly over something that they can do mortal wounds on 4s because they're infantry. So if you have 20 of them, it's like 86 attacks in combat that are strength 4 AP 1, and there's like rerolls and stuff on that. It's crazy. But before they even do that, they're going to fly over something, and you're going to roll 20 dice, and 4s are going to do mortal wounds. Wait, do I have that right? Or is it the size of the unit you're flying over? I now might have that wrong. I realize it now.
It's probably the size of the unit you're flying.
Oh, it's not. It's not, because people are talking about killing characters with it. That's like what everyone's talking about.
So like each dude does a thing?
Yes. So yesterday, one of our guys was playing on TTS with these rolls, and he flew over the Custodes bike captain with a unit of 10 of them and just put 5 mortal wounds on him. Just, there you go. Have 5 mortal wounds. So, that's neat and all. So this unit must be incredible, right? It's super fast. It hits really hard. It's got this amazing mortal wound strat. It has guns. They're not amazing, but they're okay, and it's still guns. So it must be great. Here's the problem. Each of these guys is 17 points. 20 of them is 340 points. 20 of them is about roughly the size of hiding 20 intercessors. And these guys have a 5-up armor save and a 6-up invul and no feel, no pain. Now they are
a flying stand.
Well, yeah, they're a flying stand, but a flying stand is roughly the size of a 32 millimeter.
It's taller. They're taller than intercessors.
Yes, but they are, right? But I'm saying, like, they're a little bit bulky on their base, so I would say that it's roughly probably equivalent to jamming 20 intercessors together for trying to hide. But they're taller.
I was just saying they're taller intercessors, which makes it harder.
It just makes the work harder to do.
Yeah. Exactly. So, and they have a 5-up save and a 6-up invul. Now, they are T4. That's cool. With 2 wounds, and that's cool as well. So, those 20 guys do have 40 wounds. My issue is, literally everyone in the game is focused on, how do I kill a 2-wound T4 model? Right? That's like, every single army is asking that exact question. And if you can't then hide them, you could potentially lose a large portion, if not all, of your 340-point unit before it does anything. So,
also with a unit like that, it starts at 20 and you're planning to do something with it, and I kill half of it. It doesn't do what you were planning to do anymore. It needs a new plan.
Right.
Well,
so sometimes it's not even kill the whole thing.
We haven't even touched on the fact that with Blast, all of a sudden, it's like, oh, that's really cool that you got all those 2-wound models. My full payload Manticore is going to do 12 shots.
Sure.
Yeah.
And the next one's going to do 12 shots because I haven't killed enough.
And Mitch, I can see one of them because you couldn't hide them. I guess I'll be +1 to hit on those 12 shots. Right?
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
So now this is not saying that Hellions are bad. I don't think they are,
They
and
are.
I think in small units they're flipping great. I think in small skirmishing units that your opponent has to try to kill, I think 5 guys or 7 guys, like there's a number that's right. It's probably not 20, but I'm just trying to encourage you that when you're thinking about stuff like this, think about how's it going to be deployed, how's it going to get to combat, how durable is it going to be, how am I going to keep it alive, how many things in this army am I going to be able to hide, because one of the arguments is, well, if you can hide them, sure, but you can't hide then anything else in your army. It's the only thing that can be hid, and you need to hide like everything because the army's super fragile. So I just think that's a really important thing to think about. Anything you guys would add to that?
Well, I think one of the exercises that I like for that is to get the models out. Right, I don't have a table at home, but I have enough space to be like, this is a deployment zone. Put the models, or oftentimes similar sized models, out and be like, okay, what does this look like? This is an orc thing you do because sometimes you actually outdo a deployment zone. You can't actually deploy your army,
Yep.
right? But in general, it gives you an idea of like what you look like, because oftentimes, your idea looks good on paper, but as soon as you start interacting with a table, it falls apart. So that can be helpful.
Yeah.
TTS makes that even easier now.
Yeah, people were doing it in TTS last night, trying to show me 20 scourges, but like they were on WTC terrain, which I'm never gonna see, and it's really different.
It's not the reality of any store, so.
No.
No.
And 9-inch tall walls with no windows in them means you can hide everything, including planes. And I don't think that's going to be real at any tournament. So be really careful. That's another takeaway. Like, be really careful about making presumptions based on that rule set. Like, the Void Raven Bomber's bomb is great, but the Void Raven Bomber sucks a lot for its points. And it is T6, 12 wounds with a 4-up save and -1 to be hit. It's just going to die, and the response someone told me was, well, I can hide it behind the 9-inch walls of WTC terrain. And I'm like, man, that's awful. That feels terrible to me.
With the bomber, you're hiding it with range, right? You put it out of range of them, then fly over and off the table, bomb. But you only get 2 runs that way. It's not great.
As someone who's playing with 2-die Macarons, I don't think you can start out of range anymore a lot in this game with the smaller table and what people are taking.
It's really hard for that to be a thing.
I played Dawn of War against. We'll talk about this, but I played Dawn of War against Guard yesterday, and
There's no place to hide there at all.
I just put the demons on the line. The Lehman Russes were going to get to them if they wanted to. Okay. So next thing. When you're thinking about rules, try to keep open-minded about all of them. So there's a Cabal detachment called Poison Tongue, and it makes first of all gross. Second of all, it makes all poison weapons +1 to wound. So instead of wounding on 4s with your Venoms and your Cabalites, they're going to wound on 3s. And it also has a redeploy strat where for 2 CP you can redeploy 3 units after you know who goes first. It's basically.
Does that mean that you wound on 5s for vehicles?
Well, that's an excellent question, Mitch. I would guess yes, and that's an important. That actually may be. You may have just solved my argument, but I'll explain.
Happy to help.
But I'll explain what I was thinking. So people are really excited about Poison Tongue because it's +1 to wound. Okay, great. There's also a thing called Obsidian Rose, which sounds like it's a Sisters detachment, not a Cabal detachment to me. But there's a thing called Obsidian Rose, which again, why did we make this flower out of stone? And it has 6-inch longer range on all your rapid fire assault and heavy guns, and it has reroll a failed wound. And my comment is, it's actually not clear which one of those 2 things is better. And the reality of that is, let's say you've got 10 poison shots on your Venom in rapid fire range. Like, in that case, the rapid fire range being longer and re-rolling one of the failed wounds on those 10 that actually hit, which is going to be like 7, that's the same math in that particular case as +1 to wound. It's not exactly the same, but it's very similar. So if you're talking about 30 shots, then +1 to hit is much better. If you're talking about 5 shots, a reroll is better. So you need to think about how many guns am I bringing on these different units for which one of those is better. But I'll tell you that from playing Guard, that 6-inch longer range is amazing, and it makes your rapid fire 3 inches longer. And 3 inches is actually a lot in 40k. That's your piloting. So
adding 6 inches to like a blaster is amazing.
Yes, I think it's.
So
I think it's all of them.
I would definitely lean that direction personally. I just like being able to pick my spot instead of having to like close with somebody if I don't want to.
Well, and that's the other thing is if you take Obsidian Rose, you can also have other guns that are getting a failed reroll to wound. That's the other thing. Like, whereas if you take Poison Tongue, it's only benefiting poison.
Well, an 18-inch blaster, and I get to reroll the wound. Suddenly, that sounds wonderful. But
That's
if you're just going to have a pile of warriors with, splinter rifles and nothing else, then that's a situation.
Right. So it's just when you're thinking these things through, you have to try to think about all of the options, right? It's tempting to take Prophets of Flesh because they get transhuman on the Rex. Let's talk about Rex. Actually, let's talk about Rex first. Rex are 8 points. They have a 6-up invul. They have a 5-up feel no pain. If they're near Homunculus or Urian, then they are T5. If they're so first of all, 8 points for a dude who has 2 attacks, moves 7, can advance and charge starting on the second turn, who has a 6-up, 5-up. That's great, and full stop. I don't need anything else from that guy than him being 6-up, 5-up, T5 for 8 points.
Do we know what the points are on him? 8.
8, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a plague bearer. It's an old school plague bearer. We know that's good.
Yeah. They're 5-up, 5-up though, weren't they?
They were 5-up, 5-up, -1 to hit, but you're going 7 inches without the bonuses, and you're T5 instead of T4.
And T5 is a really big deal because remember that all these Marine armies that everybody's playing, these Marine armies just bring a bunch of bolters. They don't mean to. They accidentally bring a bunch of bolters.
It's just ancillary.
Yeah, they just happen to be there. Like when you play the sets of armies that Mitch has always played, even in 8th edition, you tend to have Mitch like a few really efficient shooting things, and then you have a whole bunch of just ancillary rando shooting that's all throughout the army. Like this guy's going to shoot a rifle, this guy's going to shoot a pistol. Like there's lots of that, and the T4 versus T5 makes a big difference for all of that. So if they're Prophets of Flesh, then they also get transhuman unless the gun is strength 8 or over. Well, what does that exactly mean on T5 Rex? It means that you get transhuman against strength 6 and 7. That's what it means. I'm not saying that's bad.
Well, let's not even say transhuman. Let's say -1 to wound on strength 6 and strength 7. That's all it is.
That's not
strength
actually
6 and with strength 7.
Right.
Assault cannons.
Well, lots of stuff right now actually, and there's lots of strength 6 and 6, 7 shooting, I would say, in the game right now. But still, if you have a list that's Rax and Venoms, the strength 6 and strength 7 shooting is going into the Venoms. That's the other thing, right? I'm not saying that Prophets is bad and you get Urian and Urian's cool. I think the Prophets strat is good. I'm not saying Prophets is bad, but there's also one where you can relatively easily put -5 leadership on stuff. That's instead of getting that transhuman. You put -5 leadership on people, that's enough to have people take a lot of losses. There's also a way to put an attrition negative on that, so when they go to do their rolls to see who runs away, they're failing on 4s or 5s. And then you have a secondary where every guy that runs away is a victory point. So you're also just going to get 15 victory points. So you have to consider that could be better. I know that our buddy Peter thinks that is just the better detachment over the Prophets of Flesh.
I think that you're hitting on another point here, which the whole point of this conversation is it's easy to get caught up in one concept, but you got to consider all the rules. The faction specific secondaries are going to be so pivotal, because we can talk about, there are all kinds of arguments to be made in every army for what is most efficient at killing X or holding X or all those things. But what all of us have to come back to, and we might hit on this a little later in the podcast with actually an IG list I've been working on, is it's about winning the match. It's about winning the game. So knowing that you have secondaries you can score, knowing that every single mission type, exactly what your game plan is often a lot more valuable than possibly, I can kill more or I can tank more with this. It's cool. Does that actually move forward your game plan? Is that actually progressing what you're trying to accomplish with this army, which is effectively win, right? So there are and I think that really will inform how we look at all these units, because like you said, Colin, the secondary that allows you to get a point for every model that flees, that's an auto win versus guard. If they've got any amount of bodies, it's an auto win versus a lot of or auto 15, I should say, not auto win.
Yeah.
But it's a really, really easy and attainable thing that you can build an army, and it doesn't even have to be an army. You build a detachment, and you're like, this detachment, that's its job. It gets me 15 points, and then it holds objectives and does other things.
Right.
So, and I think that's actually what's most interesting to the Drukhari side of things for me, as even as someone who doesn't play them, is how you can have these different detachments that do different things, that bring different things to the table, and how are you going to set yourself as a player up to get as many secondaries as possible without trying and give up as few as possible without trying.
Yeah, you're right, and that's a better way of putting, Mitch, what I was saying about how complicated the codex is to build armies with. It's going to be hard to figure out how these 3 mini codexes fit together, for sure, and what way that they're going to work best. And the other thing that's interesting, and this is my final example of ways you can think of things differently, there's a secondary where at the end of my turn, every quarter of the table that doesn't have an opponent's model or an opponent's unit, I get 2 victory points. And it's in the same category as recon, which is as engage on all fronts. And so people are like, well, we always take engage on all fronts because it's so easy. And I'm thinking, sure, but this is better. First of all,
Colin, it's not.
It is better.
No, it's a Necron secondary. I've played with it a lot. It actually sucks quite a bit. If your opponent plays against you, it's like banners where they just sacrifice things. It's not great.
I hear what you're saying, and I would like to debate you a little bit on this, because Necrons are a bad army.
Allow me to retort.
And no, Necrons aren't a bad army, but Necrons are slow. The entire Drukhari book is fast things that can skirmish off and kill things. And you don't get points on the first turn, but it is already a skirmishing army. So if you put a thing into this corner over here, the idea that I can go kill it on my turn, and I have to kill things anyways, and I also want to push you off the objectives and push you out of board control, like it's very well suited for Drukhari. But the other thing is, I'm also pushing you out of you getting engaged, because I'm also killing your things and pushing you back, and I'm stopping your board control.
See, that's where that part's backwards. Because what happens is I go get my engage, I get it at the end of my turn, and you kill the thing, and you get your thing back. Yes,
but you were running out of things to do that with, right? I think it's actually better, but we'll find that out, because Chuck and I will play a lot of games of this. It's not better on every map against every army, right?
Particularly, you pick your army, right? It's great against Custodes.
It's great against Dark Angels. It's fantastic against Dark Angels.
Same army.
It's great against Death Guard on a lot of maps, right? Like because
their Deep Strike, I think so. Yeah.
Well, a lot of the Death Guard armies are trying to take the table with Poxwalkers, and I actually think that Drukhari is going to be amazing at killing Poxwalkers. I think they're going to accidentally kill like all of the Poxwalkers very quickly. So,
that makes sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, these are just things to think about. Don't presume that engage on all fronts is better. Was the only point I was trying to make. Try the other one, right? Try things. So that's kind of what I wanted to say about Drukhari. But it's just when you're reading through these things, you got to think about them from every angle. What's the points? How's it going to stay alive? What's it going to do? There's still no reliable deep strike charge in the entire book. That is by far my biggest disappointment, because deep strike charging is ridiculously fun. I've never seen this.
Feel bad experiences.
My computer says a message that is serious and I've never heard before. Later? Okay. Go away. Stop talking to me. Okay, I bet the recording hears the Windows chimes too because of the way this works. Okay, excellent. It said you're something about my Windows reaching end of service and needing to reboot to install a new service. Very important message for me to get right now.
Definitely malware.
Yes. Okay, so Wednesday, 4-ish, 5-ish Pacific, I'm gonna stream a game with Drukhari against Noah Bedom's Chaos. So that's the thing that's going to happen. I don't have any idea what I'm going to take. I'll tell you if the game was tomorrow and I had to make an army right now, I'll tell you what it is. It is 60 to 80 racks and a million dudes in Raiders and Venoms with poison. And then incubi. If I had to make the list for tomorrow, that's what I would make. But by Wednesday, I will have had a lot more time to think about this. Incubi are great. Drazhar's great. Venoms are great. Kabalites are great. Racks are great. Like, you can spam an army. One of the things I realized today is I'm pretty sure 1,000 points of Racks, which is like 100 Racks plus their characters, and 1,000 points of Witches, which is like 80 Witches and their characters. I think 80 Witches and 100 Racks and support characters might just kill 80% of what's in the meta. I think, like, I'm not saying that that's the be-all and end-all. It's not. But, like, you can just, that army just exists. You can just play that army. And it would,
moving OBSEC horde.
Yeah. And the Witches are really fast and will wreck you. And you can make succubuses that will just, like, end everyone. You can make succubuses that will just beat the crap out of people. So, anyways, just kind of an interesting, if you want to play 180 models, Drukhari has probably got you well set up for that. Sadly. I don't want to play 180 models, but other people might want to. Okay. Should we talk about the tournament now? Or do you guys want to do, guys want to do Hobby Leg first or tournament first?
I think we should do the tournament first.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let me bring up lists.
We've been preaching for a while. Let's talk some...
Well, it's just, this episode is the Colin Talks Non-Stop episode, so it's...
That's all right. When we go
There's bound to be a few of those.
Unlike every other episode.
Yeah.
Okay, so I went to a invite-only... Well, it's not really invite-only. It's more like they're managing who's coming. 8-person RTT at a store 30 minutes from here, the Dark Tower. If you're in the Skagit or Whatcom County area, or even in British Columbia later when the border opens, Dark Tower does RTTs and GTs. It's managed by a guy named JT. I don't know if it's Steiger. I don't know if Steiger. I think it's Steiger. He's never said it to me. I don't know what. But JT's a amazing human. He is high quality. He's caring. He wants you to have fun. Every time I go to his tournament, he messages me that night and says, "Hey, I really appreciate you supporting the store." Like, this is a wonderful store with wonderful people. I knew they'd take COVID very seriously, so I have not been to a tournament since Canhammer Teams in February of last year, and I just decided I have to go play my Tyranids. So my wife and I finished getting the Damacarons painted, and by my wife and I mean I put glitter on their bases, and Stephanie painted them. And I went to the store. It was interesting going to a tournament in COVID. The store was very empty and the tables were very far apart, so it felt a lot like playing Warhammer during the zombie apocalypse. It was just like...
But were the tables empty?
Yes. Yes. Well, there were 4 tables in the entire giant store with huge space between them. So
I meant the terrain.
Oh, no, the terrain was good. They did.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah, they did standardized terrain. I took some pictures that I'll post on our Instagram that we don't actively push. Our Instagram's BiffPod if you want to follow us.
We have an Instagram?
We do have an Instagram, and sometimes I'm good. Sometimes at tournaments I post a lot of pictures, and sometimes I forget. But I will tell you that I'm hiring a photographer for Charity Hammer, and we're going to live update the Instagram the whole time with pictures of people playing in their armies and stuff. So that person's good. There's going to be a person here whose job is just to take pictures and post them. That's their whole job. So that should be, because a lot of the models at Charity Hammer are really pretty and you guys don't get to see them. Some of the people that come are incredible painters. Chuck's a phenomenal painter. You guys all know that. But like Jim Vessel's an incredible painter. His stuff is I dare say more pretty than Chuck's Chaos. Sorry, Chuck.
It's Chaos Sisters now.
Chuck's kit bashes are better. So you know.
He's just really good at that too.
Yeah, he is good at that too. But he's a great painter. Richard Sigler's stuff looks good. John Lennon's come a ton in the last few years. His stuff looks really good. So like, it's worthwhile to get to see all the armies. Anyways, so I go to this tournament. Tables are separated out. Everybody had hand sanitizer they were using. We stayed apart. If I accidentally touched my opponent's models in one game, he's like, "Hey, do you want to use some hand sanitizer because you touched my models? I don't want to get anyone sick." And I was like, I wasn't actually worried about it, but that's so considerate. Yes, absolutely, I will use some hand. You're right. I shouldn't have touched your stuff. Let me use some hand sanitizer. So that was cool. I know that an 8-person RTT is not exciting for a lot of people. It's what I've been to, and I really enjoyed it, and I'm going to do a tournament report on it because that's what we do here. I will not go to a GT until I'm vaccinated. So you're not going to get a bigger tournament from me, but I will tell you that I'm supposed to get vaccinated in April based on our state's guidelines. And there is a team tournament in May, a 3-person team tournament, and I would very much like to go to that. And I would very much like to go to that with my 2 wonderful co-hosts who are here with us. Here with me. So,
is there a plaque that we could win? So like a plaque.
You love plaques. I got a plaque for winning the 8-person RTT.
Oh man.
It's not a plaque. It's like I should have brought it into the house, but it's like a little stand and a glass, an etched glass.
Oh, they gave you that?
Yeah.
That's awesome. They usually put those up in the store.
Oh, it's smaller and less fancy than the thing you're picturing.
Oh,
It's not. It's not LED backlit like the ones that they put up in the store.
Okay.
Anyways, so go to the RTT. I took my Tyranids. I'll walk you through the list because you might have forgotten what it is. But it's been. If you want to know more about it, I was on Art of War 3 weeks ago talking about it with Nick. John Lennon won a GT with it 2 weekends ago. Well, no, yeah, 2 weekends ago. Yeah. So I take a Kraken battalion. It has Swarmlord, and it has a Flyrant. The Flyrant has guns and scything talons. And he has the Resonance Barb to give him +1 to cast, which also gives him 3 casts a turn. So each turn he casts Onslaught, he casts Psychic Scream, and he casts Smite. Funny story, I didn't know that Psychic Scream removes the psychic power from a psyker you use it on. I did know that in 8th edition at some point because someone told me that I did that to them at a tournament. But when Chuck and I were playing on stream the other day, it was completely purged from my memory. I had no. Remember, told them no, that it wasn't on the like. No, it doesn't do that. It does do that.
It stole Smite from my pink horrors. It was awful.
Yeah, it did still. It was funny. And then okay, so those are the characters, and then 30 Hormagaunts, 10 Hormagaunts, 30 Termagants with Devourers. That's the 90 strength 4 shot guys. Lictor, who can bring in the 90 strength 4 shot guys with him. 2 Damacarons. That's the Kraken. If you don't know what Damacarons do, they're an 18-1 monster that punches like crazy. They're super fast and they ignore all terrain. I think that basically summarizes it.
I mean, everything other than the Vor aspect.
What's that?
Everything but the Vor aspect. That they eat people.
They do,
and get a 5-up feel no pain.
They do. At the end of fighting, you pick a target in engagement range. Your opponent rolls a strength test. They add their strength to that. If they don't beat your strength, which is 7, they take D6 mortals, and if you kill any models, you get a 5-up feel no pain for the rest of the game.
Guard don't like it.
Well, there's a 2/3 chance of it succeeding against strength 3, 50% against strength 4, and a 33% chance against strength 5. Is the basic way to think about it. And then, I guess 16% chance against strength 6. I guess. Then I have a Chronos detachment that is a something patrol probably. I think it's a patrol. Yeah.
It's a patrol.
Yeah, and it has a Neurothrope. And he's got Symbiostorm to give exploding 6s to the Exocrine or the Hive Guard. And then I have 6 Hive Guard, an Exocrine, and 3 Rippers. Those Rippers can deep strike. They let the Chronos strat exist elsewhere on the map to stop psychic powers. They're pretty good. So that's... Oh, and Swarmlord has Paroxysm, which will be a big part of my story against Chaos. And will probably give Chuck bad feels as I talk about it. Because Chuck and I also had a game where I kept putting Paroxysm on his important stuff. I think it was a big unit of Blightlord Terminators, Chuck, that I kept putting Paroxysm and -2 to hit on in 8th edition. And we just fought forever.
I've had so many of those experiences. I don't know which one is which.
Fair enough.
He's like, I can't point to the part where you hurt me because it's all of me.
Yeah, so he's got Paroxysm and he's got Catalyst. This list, we rated this list as Pack Plus in our tier. This list is S tier the majority of the time. It is only not S tier, which isn't how S tier works. But my point is that it punches up really, really well. The only thing it is worried about is ridiculously efficient shooting on a table where it just can't hide. I will talk about my first opponent now, whose name was Kevin. And Kevin is a member of the Dark Tower team. I had not met Kevin before. He is wonderful. We had a great time. He was playing Drukhari, which was a massive mind mess for me because I had spent the previous 24 hours reading rules for the new Drukhari Codex. So, like, there was a bunch of stuff. Like, I completely forgot what Vect does. Like, he caught me with Vect in the game, which is unusual for me, but my brain's like, well, Vect is different now. So, he had a patrol of Cabal of the Blackheart that had 2 Lamians and a Silith. That's just standing on stuff, holding table stuff. He had an Archon with Labyrinthine Cunning and Rid of the Living Muse. That's the reroll 1 to hit, rerolls to 1 to wound Archon. This is all irrelevant now. Actually, that Archon still does that, and that relic still exists. So that relic, that Cabal of the Blackheart dude will still be very common.
It's core though now, right?
It is core now, so it won't work on Ravagers. He had 2 Ravagers in that detachment as well. Then he had this is, by the way, triple patrol, which made me really excited because triple patrol. Then he had a patrol of the Dark Creed, which had a Homunculus and 5 Racks, and then Scourges with Shredders, 2 Reapers. Those Reapers shocked me with how good they were. Completely shocked me with how good they are. They have a multifunction gun. It has Blast 12 with high strength and AP as one of the options. That's really good right now, folks. I should actually look at whether Reapers with some creative trait are good in the new Codex. They also have a D3 plus 3 gun as well, setting as well on their gun. I think
real quick, I'd like to focus in on the Gus cam. We've got a very sleepy Gus over here.
Yeah.
Like, he is really, it's just perfect. For anyone who's watching live, this is the benefit. Sorry, go ahead.
I think, so, the Reapers had, like, 3 strength 8 D3 plus 3 damage shots or something crazy like that. It was very bad. And then he had a custom obsession detachment with Dark Techromancers and Master of Mutagens. That's the +1 to wound, +1 damage poison thing. 5 Racks, and then 2 units of Mandrakes, 2 units of Blaster Scourges, and then 2 Raiders with Disintegrator Cannons, and 4 Venoms with Splinter. So this is a very good army. We were playing the Scouring, and so with some relatively decent line of sight terrain in the middle of the table, I believe that I took. I should have just brought my sheets. They're in the garage. I could have just brought my sheets and looked at them. That would have been really smart. I took engage on all fronts in every game, so that's easy. I took thin the ranks in every game, believe it actually. And in the first game, I believe I also took big game because he had a bunch of boats. So he went first. I had my Demas split so that his boats, because basically I deployed the Demas last, and he deployed the boats throughout. So I made it so that it would be hard to get all of the boats into both Demas. His shooting did light me up quite a bit. The one Dema went down to 3 wounds, and the other Dema went down to 12 wounds. I didn't like that very much, but he didn't kill anything else. So what I did was, I ran that 3-wound Dema up into his face, trying to get a charge to kill a Venom. My idea was, if I kill the Venom and touch the Cabalites that are next to it, I could potentially get my Feel No Pain engaged. Maybe I last slightly longer, but honestly, 3-wound Dema is dead. So I spent one command point to advance him, and then I double moved the other Dema up on the other flank to attempt to take an objective from him, because I realized that we're playing the Scouring. The Scouring is a really brutal mission. It's got 4 objectives in the middle of the table, and you need to hold 2 to get 5 points, 3 to get 10 points. I realized that just with mass of my bodies while he's killing the Demacarons, I could get a 15 on a turn, maybe get a 15 on 2 turns, just by using my bodies while he's focused on the Demacarons, which he has to focus on. So the Demacaron went up, and then I shot him. And here's the thing. Yeah, go ahead.
To add that, the Scouring, while you're getting that 15, you're generally giving your opponent a 0 or a 5.
Yes.
Like, it is very swingy with the Scouring. If you're taking the points, your opponent's probably not getting them. It has a massive impact.
Yeah. So I moved Gaunts up to hold both of the objectives that were closer to me, because that's going to get me a 5. And then the Demacarons went and tried to clear the other 2, because what that would do is give him a 0 and give me a 5. And my thought was, if the Demacaron on one of them can kill everything on it, that will actually give him a 0 and then I could get a 10 if he doesn't kill the Damacaron. So the Damacaron went in. Here's the big thing. While this is happening, I'm shooting him. And the problem his list had was that Hiveguard and Exocrine are basically designed to kill his army. So the Exocrine on the first turn of the game killed a Ravager and a Raider. And that's a little bit high on math, but remember that I gave it, whatchamacallit? Symbiostorm, so that it's exploding on 5s. So I got like 8 hits on the first one and wounded on 7 of them. Well, 7 AP3s on any of those 10 wound boats is a problem. So I rolled a little bit hot, but I did kill 2 boats there. I think I killed 1.5 boats, and the Hiveguard double shot to kill the other one. So I started killing him pretty effectively with my shooting. And this is a big takeaway from the day that I want to talk about at the end, so kind of keep that in mind. Is that while you're dealing with the board control of the Tyranids, the shooting is just massive. Anyways, the 3-wound Damacaron totally failed his charge. I couldn't do anything about it, so he just stood there and died on the next turn like a chump. The 12-wound Damacaron went in and killed a Raider that was on the objective to take the objective from him and also kill a Raider. On his next turn, he easily kills both Damacarons. They're dead. He kills both Damacarons, but he does nothing else to me. By the way, he vected me a lot, or I would have table controlled him much harder. My 30 Hormagaunts were prepared to go take all 4 objectives on the first turn, but he vected the double move, which was brilliant, by the way.
Yeah, really smart. Like, it's very easy to vect the wrong thing.
Yes.
And I think that you really see really like someone who's thinking through their game with what they vect.
Right.
And so he understood, oh, those are all OBSEC Gribblies, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
Like, no. Yeah, that's awesome.
Exactly right. So that basically meant that all my hordes were on my 2 objectives at the end of 1. So into 2 he kills the Daimas, and he also brought down his Shred. By the way, he deep struck too much of his stuff, which is a big takeaway. That he deep struck the Mandrakes and all the Scourges. Oh, that's not true. He put the Blaster Scourges on the table, and the Hiveguard killed them on the first turn. Because I'm like, oh, Blaster Scourges, you say? In fact, leaving them alive would have been smart, because in fact I wasn't worried about them at all, because the Damacarons were about to die anyways. And the Blaster Scourges being across the table from the rest of my army didn't matter. Anyways, he brought the Shredder Scourges down into a building behind his objective, out of line of, because he couldn't get them into a good position to shoot me. And so his idea was, the Hormagaunts will come closer, and then I'll come out of this building, and I'll kill them. So he shoots me, kills my Damacarons. It's now my turn again, and I don't want to use the double move, so I use Swarmlord plus Advancing to go like 30 inches on the Hormagaunts. They run up, they're now on the objective, standing next to the building that those Shredder guys are in. His misplay here is to forget that I can basically go as far as I want ever, right? Like 30 inches on any deployment is forever. So my Hormagaunts go up, and on that turn they'll charge in, they kill those Shredder guys, they kill the Archon that's with them, and they also tag 2 of his vehicles. That he can only have one of them fall back and shoot, and he's out of CP because he's vected several things. And the Damacarons are dead, but the Exocrine picks up another 2 boats with the help of the Hiveguard. So now he's down to have killed 4 boats in the first 2 turns. I now have Hormagaunts on every objective. The Termagaunts come in, pick up everything on the other objective. He's now got a 0, and on the next turn I get a 15. That's game. Okay? Nothing matters after that point, because I've gotten a 20 on primary to him getting a 0. And I'm up 20 points on a game where I'm also killing him too quickly. The third round, the Exocrine and Hiveguard combination picks up another 2 boats, and all of his boats are gone. And then the Hormagaunts are in. And then on his turn 3, after the Hormagaunts go in and touch everything, he has to spend his entire turn killing the 30 Hormagaunts, and he does nothing else to the rest of my army. And that was the game. And Chuck's commented before that, if I give you a thing that I know will take you the whole turn to kill, that probably is winning me the game, right? Chuck, you've talked about that a bunch.
Yeah, you have to kill, in that scenario, you had to kill the Daimacarons and either take board space or also interact with your next squad.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
You have to get past a certain point.
Because the end result is that the Hiveguard and the Exocrine tabled his army. That's what this game is.
And I think that is the really important thing to understand about the list you play, Colin, is that when I look at that list, the Daimakarans are a concern, but like as a guard player or like the list I play, I always have an emphasis on indirect shooting because I understand the power of that, and so the Hive Guard are what give me nightmares every time.
Ignoring the Hive Guard, ignoring AP 1 and 2 was so huge at the whole day.
Yeah. So like for me, like the prioritization has to be I have to have a way to deal with the Hive Guard because if not, like, cool, your Daimakarans, I can go into them. I'm supposed to go into them. The list is designed for them to be attacked and shot at. Like, I am playing your game if I'm doing that. I need to take away the things that you're counting on consistently to try and have a chance against you. So, like, just from a counterplay sort of perspective, like, it's the Hive Guard are so terrifying and frustrating because they're infantry. So they get every bonus they need to. They're able to hide where they want to. And they have such effective shooting, and you get to choose whether or not you're going to double shoot them and expend that resource. So if you roll hot the first time, you don't have to.
Right, exactly.
By
the way, one of my big takeaways from the day is I should not be allowed to have the shoot twice strat for the Hive Guard. I never use it well. It's just a waste of 2 CP the majority of the time. Okay, so it ended up that I ended up tabling him in 3-ish turns, just because, you know. He was just too fragile against me. And
once he's out of the boats, your army is excellent at picking that up with the Termagants and the.
Oh yeah, and also I brought the Termagants in, and they basically just killed things, and nothing did anything to them. So here's another 90 strength force going into the stuff you have standing around. Oh, I'll kill 3 of your characters this turn, right?
Yeah, like based on how you describe it, that's the mistake I would say he would have made. Is he should have kept the Shredders back for those Termagants. But that's after I've had like 3 or 4 reps with your army that I understand that.
But also, the Hive Guard could almost reach the entire table, so that's hard because I'm gonna whatever. He's a great guy. I think he was
stock has gone up a ton with the table change, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's
their range covers what you need it to now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
a. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say that I don't think he had enough experience with Tyranids, and Tyranids and Sisters and. Tyranid Sisters, White Scars, like these armies that are super fast and have a lot of tricks, you really need to get some reps against them if you're going to beat them. Like you need to have seen what they do before. The part of the reason the Daimakaran list wins so much is because a lot of the people playing against it have no idea what it's going to do. And that's part of the fun of playing an army no one else is playing. So, great.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was round 1. We ended it... I think I ended it with a pretty dominant score. Let me take a look here for you guys. I got 86-19 on the Scouring, which is normally the Scouring is like 50-35, right?
It's a great score for a Scouring.
Yeah, it was really good. Also in that round, Matthew Riley from our team with his guard beat a kid at his first tournament playing Imperial Fists. JT Steiger, who's the store manager, beat our buddy from our team Nick Hendricks with his Dark Angels, and Zach's Chaos Death Guard with Warp Time thing beat Paul Winter's Slaanesh. That's a game I wish I could have watched because Paul basically took the whole table from Zach and scored a bunch of points early while Zach tabled him. And Zach wasn't sure on turn 4 that it was going to work out, and by turn 5 we had won by 27 points. So it was just like one of those weird things where he was just coming back from behind the whole game. So that would have been a good one to watch. That goes into round 2. Zach is playing JT and I'm playing Matthew. Those are the undefeateds. Matthew's guard list is very easy for me to go through because it is literally the guard list that Mitch and Peter and Zach and I built for Hammer Out Cancer to the model. It is, I guess I should still go through it. And if I go through it looking at it, that's probably easiest. It's 2 detachments. One of the detachments is everybody's always in cover. Infantry are always in cover and rapid fire 18 inches. That detachment has a Inquisitor, 3 company commanders, 2 units of 29 conscripts, 4 units of 10 guardsmen, 3 units of 4 command squad plasma guys, and then 3 units of special weapon teams of plasma. That's all that cheap, super cheap plasma that you can. I think it's 2 CP now to outflank all of that, but 2 CP to outflank. What is this, Mitch? 21 plasma guns. 9 of them hit on
Probably.
4s. 9 of them hit on 4s. 12 of them hit on 3s. They can all have reroll 1s. That's real good.
What was his regiment?
He's the rapid fire 18, and the always in cover.
Ah, got it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, no, this is literally the list that we played at Hammer Out Cancer. This is
I know. I have been very recently with the meta been skewing more towards Mordian for the ability to give the order to snipe out characters with plasma, because more and more lists are becoming much more like linchpin character centric with the new
killing
codexes.
the right of war.
Yeah,
but you have
exactly.
The problem is that you only have 12 inches then when you come in from deep strike, and you're on the table edge because you're like the 18 inches is actually a really big deal for getting any sort of good targets in this version. If you were playing with Valkyries or a way to drop them in better places, I think the 12-inch sniping is probably better.
Yep. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. If you guys don't know, we talk a lot about guard. We want guard to be good.
So much.
The second, and it is good. This is a good list. If you want to play guard, if you're excited about guard, this is probably one of the best guard lists, mono guard lists that you can build. The second detachment is gunnery experts and spotter details. That's 6-inch longer range on your artillery and reroll number of shots. 1 die shots. On the Manicore, it's only 1 die. 2 tank commanders, multi-meltas, the Demolisher, and then Astropath and Lehman Russ with just no sponsons and just a battle cannon, just a Demolisher cannon, and then 2 Manicores. Matthew did make one change over the list we played at Hammer. He only has 1 full payload Manicore and instead has all grudges.
And that's a very fair argument to make. It's something I've been bouncing back and forth
on. Yeah, I think that's fine. So what this army does is it makes one of the 29-man conscript units, it makes them a 4-up invul, immune to morale, -1 to be shot thing. Which is cool. Actually, I don't think he has -1 to be shot. I think he just had the other 3. 4-up invul, immune to morale, which is neat. The plasma outflanks and comes and gets you from the sides. The Manicores beat the crap out of you at range, and you can't get to the tank commanders because of all the guardsmen. And all the guardsmen YOLO on to train and take objectives. This was Dawn of War, which he said, I really don't want to play against you on Dawn of War because of the Hive Guard, and I thought to myself, I really don't want to play against you on Dawn of War because of the Lehman Russes. With their 30-inch range and moving 5 inches means 41 inches and double tap. It's a 44-inch table. So that's not really a thing. So Dawn of War, we deploy. I split up the Demacarons. I put all of my shooting on one end. The problem is he had so many more drops than me that he was easily able to counter deploy the Manicores. One of the things that was this. Let me tangent for a second. We've been playing that line of sight is blocked at the bottom. That we don't have windows on the bottom of our obscuring terrain. That's not how other people appear to be playing. So that's probably a change we need to make for our stream setup. But they were doing, like, some of them had walls and some of them had windows, and like you just kind of have to figure it out. So that was fine. What it did is it limited where the Hive Guard could be. They could either be on my left corner or my right corner, and either way they're only getting part of the table. The Exocrine's easier because he moves 6 inches and can act like he didn't move, and he shoots 36. So he's a little bit easier, but they need to be together because the only thing that can give them both synapse, which is important, is the Neurothrope. So all 3 of those things actually have to be together. When I deploy, people don't know that. So that's the thing to keep in mind. So I had to deploy that before him because I had like 8 less drops than him. So the Manicores were completely out of range of my indirect fire. I went first, and he put all of his stuff kind of more towards the left side, but he put 1 Russ with guardsmen on the right. So what I did on the first turn is I used my shooting and my Demacaron to go over there and clear that objective and pick up that Russ. To basically stop him from having that corner of the table and kill Russ. Because killing a Russ with a Demacaron is great. It's one less thing you have to shoot me with. I took Thin the Ranks against him, so it's a point. I took Thin the Ranks, Big Game, and Engage against him. Thin the Ranks and Big Game stack. So if somebody has a bunch of vehicles and a bunch of bodies, like, I don't know, say my army, you can take both, and you're basically double earning points. So, and then the other Demacaron went the other way, and basically just went into his guardsmen and killed a whole bunch of them. That Democharon had Catalyst on it. My plan was, I can't avoid your shooting, so I'm going to put this in your deployments, in basically on you, so that you have to move away from it, for your guardsmen away from it. You have to fall back with your... Basically, I touched a bunch of guardsmen so they couldn't move forward onto the table effectively. And if he moves them wrong, I get to get a Mana Core the next turn. I knew that he could shoot me with everything no matter where I was on this table. So being closer to him didn't get him anything. The next part's kind of sad. Both Democharon, bottom of one, both Democarons died easily to his vehicles. He did the Democharon with Catalyst. Was the old Grudges one, and that was easy to kill. And then the other one also easily died. I couldn't hide them. There was nowhere for them to be. They did. The good news is, because of how I was holding his guardsmen, he didn't take a bunch of the table while doing that. He pushed out one 10-man guards unit to kind of hold me, but my Hormagaunts were able to easily use that to get onto an objective. So at the end of my turn 2, I had 5 of the objectives. I brought in my Termagants, shot him off his corner objective. I'm now on 5 of the 6 objectives on battle lines. I have Gaunts everywhere, all over the table, and I'm still shooting him. On that turn, the Exocrine and the Hive Guard took both of the tanks due to a targeting error on my... I could have killed a tank, but because I didn't measure range before I started shooting, the Exocrine shot a Leman Russ that the Hive Guard couldn't reach. So I ended up shooting the Exocrine into one and the Hive Guard into the other, wounding both Russes, but they still exist. On his turn, he used the Russes to try to kill something. They didn't do a good job of it. The Flyrant, I think? And he just kind of did well against them. Oh, no. I baited him with the Flyrant. That's right. I used the Flyrant to get a bunch of damage on his guardsmen, knowing that he would kill it with the Russes, but I didn't want him to shoot the Exocrine, because the Exocrine was wrecking him. Termagants came in, cleared another objective. So now what's happened is, it's bottom of 2. He has 2 Leman Russes, and... Oh, I missed something. I double moved my Hormagaunts up, and they charged into his conscripts, and I managed to get one single Hormagaunt around a guardsman to get within an inch of one of the Mana Cores. Boop! Turned off. The Hormagaunts are so fast, and as a 30, you can just kind of go in. So the 30 was able to take an objective, hold him back from moving on his turn, and touch a Mana Core. So now he's walled in with this Hormagaunt unit while I'm shooting him, and I've taken 5 of the objectives. So I'm getting 15 every turn on primary, and this is where it really goes south for him, because on the next turn, the Exocrine and the Hive Guard kill the Russes, and he has to fall back with his Mana Core, and I start killing all of his guardsmen, and it's basically just over from there. Swarmlord decides that oh no! I took When We Stand. That's what I took. I didn't take Big Game. I took When We Stand in this game, because I thought that 10 points from that would be better than trying to get 8 points from his Big Game. That's right. So Swarmlord killed stuff. And then I just kind of killed everything. At the end of 4, we just called it, because all he had left was 3 characters. The reality was, Matthew made 2 mistakes. The first of which is his target priority. If he kills the Exocrine early, I actually think he should have killed the Exocrine before the second Democharon. The Democharon that's in the extreme corner of the table that took that objective, he could have just screened with guardsmen so that the Democharon can't get to his tanks, and he could have shot the Exocrine, which has no invul on it. It's just and the Demolisher guns are going to kill the Exocrine. And here's what I learned at this tournament: the Exocrine's the most important thing in the army. The Democarons have to exist for the Exocrine to be good, but that Exocrine with Symbiostorm on it just wrecks things. So basically, that's how he should have target priority differently. He should not have taken the bait to shoot the Flyrant. The Flyrant is scary, but it's not scary enough for that. He also was so worried about how fast I was and how good I am at touching vehicles that he stayed castled up too tight and couldn't play the mission. When you're playing guard, you need to YOLO your 10-man guard squads with run to objectives. And he easily could have done that and played the primary better and also held me back better.
That really speaks to one of the things I find playing that list is the Tyranid list puts a lot of pressure on you. And what it does is it exploits the fact that you don't know how much return pressure to push. Right? Like, it puts the 2 Democarons on you, and you're like, okay, I've got to kill these Democarons. But you have to actually do more than that. But you have to basically calculate perfectly how I'm going to kill the 2 Democarons, plus also add this extra pressure.
Right.
Because if you fail, then you don't kill the Diamond Carrion and it's there and it does another thing to you. And they degrade a little bit, but like with the reroll to hits, their degrade is not that bad. They'll kill another thing.
Right. And if you have 100 bodies in front of the things that kill my monsters, you don't actually need to kill the Diamond first. That's the other thing.
Yeah. Well, no, and that's the thing, I think, is that it's just the Dimacarians are the new distraction Carnifex, which is great. It's in their heritage. That what really needs to be getting gone is your shooting, because, like, yes, you are using the Dimacarians to project out force, but the real amount of force you're projecting is from the Hive Guard and I forgot the name of the other shooting unit.
The Exocrine and also the Termagants as well.
Yes, yeah. The Gaunts, but like that all can be mitigated more if you only get one turn of shooting with any one of those things, it's a lot less effective than 2 turns or 3 turns.
Right.
Whereas the Dimacarans, if you have enough bodies, you should let them do their thing for a turn, eliminate 1 or 2 of your shooting units that are going to continue projecting force, then eliminate those big bugs, because at that point you can now start to your opponent can take over the board while combating what you have left.
Right. But you better screen well, because those Dimacarans will find a hole. I promise.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing is
you need a lot of bodies.
They're such an overwhelming threat. It's people over focus on them, and hence distraction Carnifex.
Right. So in the end, I beat Matthew 95-54. I think I missed 5 points because he killed the Dimacaron for when we stand. So
that makes sense.
Right. And then the final game is against our good buddy Zach, who is my most common, I have to win a tournament, so I have to play you guy. Zach is easily like up there for best player in the state. He would be in that. He would have to be in that conversation. Zach was taking a different take on his Death Guard, and I'm going to bring that list up because I'm worried I'll get it wrong. And we played on a mission that was
was it Battle Lanes with the 4 objectives?
Yeah, the 4 objectives were it's Hammer, but then 1's in each of our deployment zones and 2 are in the middle.
Yep. Battle Lanes.
Yeah, thanks. So he had a Harbingers battalion that had I've got a dog. Another dog has appeared. I have to pick this dog up or she's going to cry because it's the morning and I've not said good morning to her yet. Okay. So, now I have a dog with me, making the stream even more fun. Okay, Deathclaw Chaos Lord. You have to drop him from the table, Chuck, but he has to flip once, and then whatever he lands on.
360?
Yeah, he's got to do a full 360 or he doesn't. Okay. That's a really old Magic reference. Yeah. That's what that is.
Speaking of skills I don't use anymore.
Right. I bet a lot of the people don't even know what that is.
No.
Malignant Plague Caster, 4x20 Pox Walkers, 10 Possessed, 5 Possessed. Does my keyboard smell good? 3 Death Shroud Terminators, 3 Death Shroud Terminators, 2 Plague Burst Crawlers. Then he's got a patrol with Word Bearers that has a Sorcerer and 10 Chaos Cultists. Chuck, you're the Chaos expert. Do you want to say anything about this list before I talk through my game? Like what it's trying to do?
It's interesting. So Zach and I have been talking about it. He's really not impressed with the Possessed in the game, which I have also played exactly 1 game with the Possessed since they got the Death Guard glow up, and still same feeling. Just like, well, they still only do 1 damage, so they can't kill anything. Great.
By the way, Chuck, someone says that you have to tear him up so that you can table your opponent's entire army. The Chaos.
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, there's a couple of games I'd do it. But you have to make sure every piece does a 360.
Yeah, which is really complicated. All right, sorry. Go ahead and talk about Chaos.
I think for the most part, he's got the right idea here with, Poxwalkers and Terminators. I believe in the warp time. I'm a little distracted by the recent release where they get you can move them farther if you don't have warp time, if you just do the all infantry Death Guard. But that means no Plague Burst Crawler. And Plague Burst Crawler is great.
Yeah.
So I think he's in a good spot here. I think for your particular matchup, he'd actually be better off with, like, say, 20 less Poxwalkers and something else that hits hard, or some more shooting. But at 100 points, 20 Poxwalkers is hard to argue with. So yeah. I don't know.
He needed more shooting for sure, and that's what I'm worried about the specialty. If you guys haven't seen the campaign book, they announced a specialty detachment that gives you a bunch of bonuses for your Death Guard, but you can't have vehicles, and vehicles is where a lot of the shooting is for Death Guard. And I am really nervous about any army that's two-dimensional like that. The Tyranid list is good because it does everything. Good psychic, good shoot, good punch.
You can lead into Light Lord Terminators with actual decent guns.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Well, if he had Light Lord Terminators, the game would have been very different. Because he did not have them, I started the Termagants on the table, and I started them 35 inches from 34 inches. I started them 34 inches from 40 Poxwalkers. And the reason I did that is I can double their advance and then onslaught them so that they hit on 4s again, and they can double shoot, and then for 3 CP I kill 40 Poxwalkers on the first turn with those 20 Termagants. Mm-hmm. How do I stop him from killing them back? Well, this is the game plan I had the night before that I'm telling you guys right now. Well, how do I do it? What does he do there? Well, he then kills the Termagants, unless there are 30 Hormagaunts in front of them, because he's taken all of the bolters out of his list. So basically, when I read Zach's list, I identified a weakness. And this is tournament play, right? The weakness in Zach's list is he can't deal with 30 guys with guns behind 30 guys that don't have guns. He has no answer for that. So now it's the game. We're deployed. Termagants are on the table. They almost never start on the table. I don't think they've ever started on the table against Chuck. Like they're on the table.
I didn't even know they could. I didn't know you were allowed to do that.
So they're on this, and by the way, this is why they're Kraken and not Kronos. In Synapse as well. But they're Kraken so you can double advance them because the guns are assault. Against Matthew, I actually got 2 turns where they moved far enough where on 5s they killed a bunch of guardsmen. Like they're going to go like 11 on average. So, okay. So Zach goes first. It's Hammer, what the heck is it called? Hammer and Anvil. Okay. Hammer and Anvil deployment, I put the Demacarons out of range of being shot by his Plagueburst Crawlers. He put his Plagueburst Crawlers out of range of being charged by my Demacarons. So they just kind of agreed that they didn't want anything to do with each other on the first turn. So I basically measured so that he couldn't move and las cannon me, but he could mortar the Demacarons. The problem is that Plagueburst las cannon is D3 plus 6. If I just have a bad dice turn, I then don't have a Demacaron. So I can't have that. Zach goes first. He moves all his Poxwalkers up to the middle objectives. Zach took Vital Ground, which is if he in his command phase he gets 2 points for each of the objectives in the middle of the table. He was presuming that he would outboard control me. He presumed incorrectly. So we'll talk about that. So all the Poxwalkers moved up to the objective. The Possessed moved up to the middle of the table with Poxwalkers all around them. The Plagueburst Crawlers moved forward to shoot Demacarons. They moved forward to just get shots into Hiveguard and Termagants. They couldn't reach the Demacarons. And he shot, and so he's like, okay, I can reach the Termagants, I can reach the Hiveguard. I know the Hiveguard ignore AP2, but I do 3 damage flat with my stratagem. If I can kill a couple Hiveguard, I think it's a really big deal. So he shot the 3 damage flat mortar into the Hiveguard. That's exactly what I wanted him to do, because the chances are good that I don't even lose a Hiveguard from that, and then he's not doing Blast 6 into the Termagants, which are important to the game. So he shoots the first one into the Hiveguard. He gets 3 wounds. I roll 2 saves. My third one I fail. I reroll it with a command point and save that guy as well. So now he's fired his mortar, and I have all 6 Hiveguards still alive. Then he shoots the other mortar into the Termagants, and also shoots Stubbers at them, and also shoots his last cannons at them. He kills altogether for the turn. He kills 6 Termagants. So I've got 24 now. It's now my... What's that?
That's not enough.
No, that's not enough. Now it's my turn. And I can't... And I realize that he has left me the opportunity to kill a Plagueburst Crawler. There's a place on his side of the table where there's a Plagueburst Crawler with 3 Dark Shroud next to it. And the Dark Shroud are... Is it Dark Shroud or Death Shroud?
Death Shroud.
Death Shroud. There's Dark Shroud's the Dark Angel thing, right? So...
I don't know.
Yeah, it's the -1 to hit aura thing.
Oh yeah, the little land speeder.
Yeah. So there's 3 Death Shroud and a Plagueburst Crawler next to each other. And what's stopping me from getting to them is 20 Poxwalkers that the Termagants are going to be in range of. But they can't do two. I'm not going to be able to do double shoot and kill 2 units because if I do that, I need onslaught on the Damacaron. So I move the Termagants up so they'll be able to kill that 20-man Poxwalker unit. I double move the Hormagaunts, lose a couple to mortals, but I double move them with the overdrive, whatever it's called. I can't remember. You take mortals on ones.
Metabolic overdrive.
Thank you. Metabolic overdrive. They run out in front of the Termagants by enough that even if they get wiped, nobody can then pile into the Termagants. The Damacaron goes up right behind the Hormagaunts as well. The idea there is Swarmlord's behind a building 6 inches from that guy. If I fail onslaught, that Damacaron's running away. He's going back. But if I get onslaught, he's going. And he's going. Like he has a hell of a mission ahead of him. So the other Damacaron basically moves up behind a piece of terrain, trying to make the Plague Burst Crawlers have difficulty shooting him. I can't put them both in at the same time. So I now shoot my Termagants. They kill 18 of the 20 Poxwalkers, which is not the correct amount, but so be it. The Hive Guard shoot into the Death Shroud that the Damacaron's about to attack, killing one of them. I mostly do that because I know I want to fight. I don't know that I want to double fight. It's expensive CP-wise, and I need to kill the Plague Burst Crawler, so I may literally have to take the hit from the Death Shroud. So I want to lessen that impact on the Damacaron so that it can survive longer. The Exocrine shoots Poxwalkers off of one of the objectives because that's what he needs to do. Oh no, he kills the 5 possessed. Forget them.
Okay.
He kills 3 of the 5 possessed. The other 2 get killed by Smite later by the Flyrant. He's now got... I can't get him off one of the middle objectives because by 10 Hormagaunts, there's too many Poxwalkers. They just can't get it done. The other one, I push him off with the Hormagaunts and everything. Here's what happens next. I double shoot the Hive Guard into the Death Shroud and do nothing. 2 CP wasted. Then I spend a CP. Then I spent a CP to move to double advance the Damacaron. The Damacaron now goes 18. He's up there. He charges in to fight the Death Shroud and the Plague Burst Crawler. 1 more CP to reroll wounds. For those that are keeping track, I've now spent 4 CP on my turn. Then I kill the Plague Burst Crawler. I do like 25 wounds to it or something insane. And I try to eat the Death Shroud. I fail at eating the Death Shroud. That would have been hilarious. Then the Death Shroud punch me. They do literally almost nothing to me. I then decide it's worth it, so I spend 4 more CP. I spend 3 CP to double fight into those Death Shroud and kill them. That kills them, which lets me overrun. And I then overrun that Damacaron back behind the Hormagaunts again. What that does to Zach is wins the... What it does to me is it runs me out of CP. What it does to Zach is ends the game. Because what's happened now is I have an Exocrine, I have Hive Guard, and I have 2 Damacarons, and he can charge 0 of them on his next turn. I have walled and I have screened. He can, and in addition to all of that, I have Termagants he can't do anything about. He has 1 Plague Burst Crawler to deal with all of those problems. So, that Damacaron is, I can't remember why, shooting and stuff. It's down to 3 wounds now. At the end of Zach. Zach shoots at the Damacaron, gets it down to 3 wounds, the one that went in, and he has this plan where he's going to go into the Hormagaunts wall with all of his Plague Bearers, and the possessed are going to go first, and they're going to wipe it, and then the Plague Bearers are going to do 6-inch move and touch the Termagants. The problem is that on my turn I put Paroxysm on his possessed, and Zach did not remember that I put Paroxysm, even though the card was on the table next to them. Zach missed that. It meant that they could not go first. And so while he did kill all the Termagants, and he did get his Poxwalkers around the possessed enough to protect them with Cloud of Flies, he was not able to touch the Termagants. So now I've got 2 Damacarons. I've got my Termagants. I have all my shooting, but my Hormagaunts are dead. Fine. From there, basically, Zach just loses. That was the end of the game. We kind of joke about it at the time. What happens from here is that the Damacarons both charge the possessed because they have I put Paroxysm on them again. So they both charge the possessed. They kill, because he has Cloud of Flies, I can't do anything about them. I kill enough of them that that when they fight back, they only do 9 wounds. They only do a handful of wounds to the healthy Damacaron. But I kill a bunch of possessed. I don't know, I kill 4 of them or something. So now there's only 6 of them. They're nowhere near as scary. They have to fall back, so they can't do a bunch of movement shenanigans to go get into me somewhere else. And on my next turn, I kill every Poxwalker on the table, every possessed on the table, and now it's like turn 4, and Zach has 10 cultists and a Plagueburst Crawler and some characters. Those characters actually managed to kill the last Demicharon because of that stupid flippin' relic. Jesus. The relic that you throw at somebody. What's that?
Yep. The Plague Skull of Golgoth?
Yeah, you throw it, it's 7 dice, 4 up is 1 mortal wound, 6 up is D3. He did like 11 mortal wounds to Trogdor in a previous game we play. He did 9 mortal wounds to the Demicharon. Which if he had not done, the Demicharon would not have died. So what happened here is the Termagants, the Termagants and the Exegrin won the game. I killed the Poxwalker so quickly that by turn 3 he didn't have any. If he doesn't have any Poxwalkers, and by the way all the Death Shroud were dead, that means his army is possessed and Plagueburst Crawlers. I can easily manage that. So the weakness of his army of no anti-horde shooting was exacerbated by the matchup. But again, this is another matchup where while you're dealing with the Demicarons, my shooting has killed you. That's the same thing. It happened again. So ended up being really lopsided. I tabled him on. I killed the last Plagueburst Crawler on turn 5 to table him and get a really high score of 90 to 47. I think that 90 to 47 has nothing to do with Zach's skill. He did miss Paroxysm. That was a pretty big mistake, and he did shoot wrong on the first turn a little bit. But the bigger issue is that he took those Blightlord Terminators with their bolters out of the list. If he had still had those and could have prescienced them, then my game is super different.
So the Tallyman can give them +1 to hit.
The Tallyman's amazing.
Yeah. And then they also have a strat for 1 CP to give a Terminator unit +1 to hit. Like, there's so many different ways for them to be, like, absolutely hitting on 2s, and then if you grab a reroll 1 or they'll mulch through.
Yeah. And I think that you need to have tools for everything, and his list didn't have tools for everything. But he's going to a GT next weekend, and I helped him see his weakness in his army, so it was great.
Yeah.
So that was the RTT. It was a great deal of fun. I ended up with 270 something points, which I'm sure is the most I could have gotten.
So you dropped 20 something over the whole event?
271. Yeah, I missed 29, so I averaged 90 points a game.
Nice.
Really good, strong performance. I felt good. All my opponents, I think, had fun. I played a bunch of great people. Just a wonderful experience. I hope you guys got some good lessons listening to me talk it through. I really do. That's the reason we talk it through. It's also for my benefit. It's helpful for me to talk through my games. My big takeaway for the day was that incredible shooting that your opponent has no time to shoot at is just great. That was my big takeaway. And I think Drukhari could do that potentially, so I'll be thinking about that. Okay, we have 2 more topics, and the first one is Hobby Leg. Mitch, why don't you describe what the problem is, and then we'll talk about ideas for how to do better.
Sure. So Hobby Leg is a concept I kind of coined the term of like a few years ago, of like the idea of a codex hits, we all discover what the new hotness is, and how long does it take based on that? Because if it's orcs, that might be 150 models that need to get painted to take advantage of that new hotness. If it's Space Marines, it might be 4, right? Like it just depends. So Hobby Leg is something to always consider. Like a great example of Hobby Leg, I feel like, was AdMech. AdMech were a constant sufferer of Hobby Leg. They always had new cool rules coming out, but the amount of time it takes to assemble and paint those intricate models and to get enough of them to like make a difference always sort of set things back.
Yeah.
So with obviously 2020 behind us, and where vaccines are being distributed, some semblance of normalcy for the 40K scene is on the horizon. In the meantime, we've seen from 2020 massive amounts of obviously the lockdowns affecting production, supply chains being completely disrupted. I know in the industry I work in construction, something that costs like a 2x4 that would have cost $2.20 in 2019 is now $6.80. So there's been massive changes all over the world adapting to this devices. And with that, we've also seen specifically with Games Workshop, I know like a ship sank that had a bunch of product on it and like different things like that. Hobby Lag is at an all-time high, even though we've all had a year to sit and make models. The new rules keep dropping. The meta is unknown because we don't have enough reps, for like statistical analysis. I see a lot of people turning to alternatives, whether it's kit bashing, trying to find third-party models, buying a 3D printer, whatever, like the different things. I think it's an interesting topic of, like, how are you trying to work with Hobby Lag, especially since so many new codexes have dropped. People are starting entirely new armies, and, like, I want to start Sisters. I can't get new models. Like, I mean, I can get some, but not enough.
I do want to correct one thing. Not really correct. I want to add to something Mitch said just to make sure we don't upset people. One thing that Mitch said there. Everything's making noises. One thing that Mitch said there was that we don't have enough data to know what the meta is. We do actually have that. Well, we don't, like, there's plenty of data. Lots of people have played 40K all the way through COVID. There's other parts of the world where we have data. We've got lots of data, but we have data of what models are available. I think that's what Mitch meant, but I didn't want to sound like we were throwing shade at Stat Center.
The data we have is not informed. No, it's not that Stat Center is doing anything wrong. We're getting all of the data that's available, but it's an order of magnitude smaller than what we would have if we weren't in lockdown, right? Like we would have.
Peter says that's not. Peter says that's not true. That there's just not. It's not an order of magnitude less data. So I just want to be careful that we're not misspeaking. But I think you're still right. I'm sorry. I just want to, because Stat Center's our friend. I don't want to be incorrect from what Peter's been telling people. But you're still right that we don't have the full data, and the reason we don't have full data is because you can't get the models you want to play with. So you're not taking the thing that you really want to take. Everyone's taking a version of what they want to take. That's what
data is different. Let me try, Mitch.
Go for it. Sorry.
We do have enough events to decide what the meta is. But we don't have a 300-person GT to show us the true power.
True.
Right?
That's true.
And that's where the true power lists come from, is when you have that amount of testing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to discern when a bunch of smaller GTs are being won by this and by that and by this. You can't tell which one's the best. I think that's the really core difference there.
Yeah, there's not enough. We're not getting as many permutations, so innovation is not happening as quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Is more of what I'm getting at. It's not that we don't have enough data to analyze. It's that we would have already accelerated what Sisters could be, what all of these things would be through the sheer number of events. And as that data just distills more and more, it's like clarity, right? Like you just get more and more of a clear picture through volume.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I think that's really interesting when you consider TTS, because it's almost the opposite. I bet the TTS community is closer than the in-played community. For one, they don't have Hobby Lag at all.
Right. None.
Download the thing, you got your army, you're good to go. So it's interesting to me. They may actually have a better idea. I have no idea. I don't follow that community, so I don't know where they're at. But there's certainly
then there's the whole argument of like what wins in TTS doesn't necessarily win in person, because it's a different transferable set of skills. Like that's a whole thing on its own.
Yeah, I don't know enough about that space to get it, but certainly seems like an interesting part of that.
Oh, I've been following it for that reason. It's fascinating. It's so
interesting. I wonder if it made TTS and if we should have them on and interview them. I know they wouldn't be a Warhammer person, but the idea of, I'm sure they're a tabletop gamer. They have to be.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting. If you guys know who is like the brain behind TTS, if you guys know that, if you know that, could you let us know? I'd actually be interested to interview and hear about the idea of the future of TTS, because like I struggle a little bit with TTS because of the type of insane personality and brain I have. But the path that TTS is on is a really important path. So if anybody knows who that person is, we'd be interested to talk to them.
Or just their PR person, anyone we
some sort of contact there. Yeah. I don't know if it's a big company that made it or just some guy. It strikes me as a just some guy project, but I'm not a software engineer. Okay. So it's great. I mean, no shade. So what are some things? Yes, we're all feeling that. I'm frustrated by that. I had to borrow attack bikes from a friend in Chicago because I couldn't find any to buy. So like I get it. I understand. What do we suggest people do about it? What suggestions do you have for people to kind of to deal with this?
The one that I take is often, particularly people tend to be faction focused. And I take this take when you're in late stage codex and you don't know what the next codex is going to be. Troops are always going to be a part of things. So if you don't have that, fill that out. And then special characters, because they're not going to change their loadouts, right? You look at stuff like that and say, like, what's evergreen in this army? Let's make sure that's taken care of.
You're talking about before the codex ever comes out, right?
Right. Or yeah, when you're what I call late stage codex, when you've gotten to the point where you can't really play the codex the way it was meant to anymore. Maybe you have some weird interaction that gives you a game, but you don't really have a good codex anymore. You start looking at it that way. I'm doing that with my orcs right now, just making sure I fill the special characters, because new book comes out and let's do a thing, right? I think stuff like that is good. The other way to go is just paint what you have, because it's obviously more cost effective than building up your pile of unpainted models and not really knowing where you're going. As far as getting models, I don't know. Reach out to as many places as you can. I think that's just a frustrating thing.
Yep. The used market is still a thing. It's very strong.
Yeah.
I would say that Stephanie and I kit bash a lot, and that's a good way around this problem. I spent time last night trying to figure out what we're going to make racks out of, because I think I want to own 80 of them. And if I'm going to build 80 racks, the way our elves are our hobby army in a lot of, the Tyranids have won a bunch of hobby awards, but like a lot more effort has gone into the Eldar. So if it's elves, I have to think about that. And so one of the things I've realized is I'm not going to be able to buy 80 racks. I think I have 20. But I'm not going to be able to buy them. So what am I going to make them out of? And so that's more expensive. And it's not for everyone at all. It's also harder, and sometimes your kit bash looks terrible. I speak from experience. So like, there's lots of challenging about that, but it is a thing. A big thing is testing. I think we should all be proxying a lot in our test games, because the other thing is everything's changing so quickly, and models are hard to get. It's a really good, like, I'm going to play that. If I play 80 racks on Wednesday night, I'll probably 20 of them will be Guardians, 20 of them will be like, I'll grab 20-man units on the same base size from other armies. Like 20 Guardians, 20 Guardsmen, 20 Acolytes. There we go. Right? Actual Acolyte spaces are too big, but that's fine. Like I'll find an army of very obviously not Drukhari, so that it's clear that I'm not just different. Like yeah, so I have skinks. I can use skinks, right? Like just use guys as racks and play games with them, because if I decide I don't like playing 80 racks, one, I felt foolish for spending $500 or whatever it is to track down 80 racks and build them, right? So test a lot. TTS is great for testing. If you like TTS, that's even easier than proxying. But do all of that. Though. But and then for sure what Chuck said, right? If you know your codex is coming, and we know orcs, we know sisters, we know what else do we know? Admech. We know all those are somewhat soon, somewhat in the.
So the other side of that,
go ahead, Mitch.
That Colin, you're talking about like making your own version, how that can be more expensive and stuff, and how that may not be for everyone. What I would say to people is, you don't need, unless you have an event coming up, unless there's a specific reason. You don't need heavy intercessors right now. You don't need like whatever unit that is not readily available, and if you're going to pay for it, you're paying $90 for 5 dudes on eBay. Like it's easy to get swept up in the FOMO of like, oh, I want to be able to have these guys and have them ready because I want to play them because the rules are so good. The rules will still be good in 3 months. The rules will still be good when Games Workshop comes out with an individual kit for that unit. If it feels like it's too much for you to pay, it's too much for you to pay, and that's cool. Like, just that's the other side of it. It's easy. I know for me, like I come up with lists. I'm like, oh man, I need X number of, Valkyries or whatever the unit is, and I'm like, okay, well, am I actually going to play
Hellflame?
yeah. Am I actually? And let's be clear, I'm 100% the guy who will buy all of those and play them. But at the same time, I only do that after I've run enough tests with chimeras standing in as
right.
Hellhounds or whatever it is, and go, okay, this list has legs. This is something I'm going to play for the next 3 to 6 months, and I have events coming up. I'm going to play them. So it's really easy to get swept up in the new hotness syndrome, right? Of like,
you get really excited and it's fun to make a purchase.
Like you have a list you're excited about. You get the dopamine hit of like when you buy them, but then afterwards you're like, wow, I don't really have any time to assemble or paint those right now because I'm catching up on work because we're going back to full time in person stuff or whatever changes are happening for you, and that money, the box of that. yeah, that money doesn't necessarily get you any further. So I would just coming out of 2020, everyone's financial situation is different, and I'm not going to pretend I can speak to any specific person, but this is a hobby that we all do by choice, and it's easy to want to spend that money because everyone else is, and that FOMO can cause you to spend 20 to 30% more, and that's the voice of experience, not judging anyone, than you need to when you're like, you know what, actually the next event I'm going to is in 2 months. Probably could have waited a bit on that. Probably could have shopped around.
But oftentimes the meta might shift a little bit, and then the thing you bought isn't even like that's what happens to me is I buy a thing to deal with something in the meta changes before I get to it, and then it's just in this box.
Exactly. If there's 2 codex releases that are going to happen before you're playing again, probably don't commit to a list. Like just keep filling out like Chuck said, the evergreen stuff, or just the stuff that I bought this army because I love this unit. I am going to do this unit to as high as I can because this is why I fell in love with this army.
Okay, should we move on to the lightning round?
Oh, yeah.
It's time for the lightning round. I need to find a professional voiceover person to do transitions for us.
I mean, I could be a professional. You just have to pay me.
That is how being a professional works. You're not wrong. All right, here's how the lightning round works, guys. Our patrons ask us questions. We don't look at them ahead of time. I read them to us, and we quickly answer them. The idea is that these are quick answers, not 20-minute answers, Mitch.
We try.
Wow.
Often it turns into long
Feeling
answers.
very attacked.
I tease. Okay, the first one's a math problem. Who wants a math story problem?
Oh my god.
Nobody. All right, moving on. Gloria's washing machine is broken. Since her machine is pretty old, she doesn't want to spend more than $100 for repairs. A service call will cost $35, and labor will be an additional $20 per hour. There are no other charges. What is the maximum number of hours that the repair person could work without the total cost exceeding $100? 3. Okay, moving on.
More importantly, is don't save that $100 to buy a new one.
Yeah. I think I've had 2 times in my life where I had a dishwasher that was broken, and which is not is nearly as expensive as a washing machine usually. But I've had a dishwasher broken twice where they said this is not worth repairing. You should just buy a new one. LVO is tomorrow, and if you win you win the ITC. Only one thing: the army can contain only one data sheet, but it can be used as many times as fits. What do you take, Chuck?
Catan.
Oh man, how many Catans is that? 6?
6? Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe not. Maybe only 5. And if it's 5, probably not that.
Our matchup is weird because I think I have 9 Flyrants.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Termagants.
No, because that's terrible. Because that's terrible. 9 Dimachirons is like 9 Dimachirons is also a thing, but that loses to the guy that took only Nurglings. So.
More tank commanders?
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
The guy that took only tank commanders is a real problem. Mitch, what do you got?
I was probably gonna go with command squads with plasma of some sort.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because it's 80 points or less, 65 points. I'm sorry. Yeah. So I'm gonna get more than 20 of them. So I'm like, that's 24 of them ish. So that's a lot of plasma.
But no rerolls. But no rerolls.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
If I just have to kill 8 Flyrants, that's totally fine.
I've done a math and I've decided to change my mind. It's 33 mortifiers.
That's the correct answer, actually.
Well, they punch and shoot.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
they're good Omni tools.
Someone's saying not going for Talon Masters. Well, I don't know. Talon Masters aren't durable enough for this, probably.
You only get I did the math. It was like 12 or 14 of them.
It's 3 mortifiers for 1 Talon Master, points wise.
Yeah.
So, okay.
The fact that the heavy bolters give you, it's good range. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Yep. Let's see. You have to stop playing one of your current armies. Which do you drop and why? Chuck. Sorry, Chaos. Sorry, Chaos. We literally had this conversation last time you were here.
Look, there comes a time when you've been in an abusive relationship for long enough where you just say, I gotta go. I gotta go. Like, I don't know.
They want to know more about why you're saying this, Chuck. You need to...
Let's think. Chaos is a big bag of tricks, and you're hoping your opponent doesn't know about those tricks. I don't want to play that way. I don't want to hope my opponent doesn't have the skill to win the game. I want to have enough space to have the skill to win the game myself. I feel like there's so much that's... I don't know. There's a certain amount of pressure and stuff, and I hope that with some points changes and some rebuilds to the army that it'll be something different. But the way it is right now, it's a lot of a warp time trick, or I'm looking for something that's points efficient that I can just spam out a ton of. Nurglings are gone now. They're not awful, but they're not spammable. So they're not doing that. Like I don't. To me, there's nothing to appeal to me. I don't know how to say what I don't want when I just point at all of it.
Fair enough, Mitch.
At the moment, it's probably AdMech.
Okay.
I love AdMech. I have it's not that it's literally a hobby commitment issue of I don't have time to build that army. That is too detailed. There are too many things.
But you're looking at sisters.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm saying is I'm like, if I'm going to put that much time into an army, I want an army that guarantees me a 6 mother. Yeah, I need the sisters offer a lot more consistency and sort of depth of utility, whereas AdMech right now feels very stuck in okay, we can shoot at stuff. What else do you want, boss? I can give him the clamps. You want me to give him the clamps?
It's really expensive countercharge. I hope it works.
It's just they're I love their flyers. I love the robots. I love Skitarii. I just don't. The way they want to play right now is not how I want to play. I think at the moment. Okay. The other option would probably be Custodes, because I own them and I don't think I've ever actually played them. I outside of characters that I added to a list. I love them. Again, I think the lore is cool, and I don't intend to get rid of them ever. But they're another one where I just haven't found my stride. I don't know how my playstyle fits into their codex yet.
I think I need to own them. So you could potentially keep them in the family. We should talk later when I don't have Drukhari to build. The fact that we never have Custodes on stream is a problem. We need to have a Custodes army for the stream at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But
I have the army.
But your answer makes sense, Mitch. My answer's hard because I basically play 2 mega factions primarily. I play all of Bugs and all of Elves. I've played a bunch of Imperium for the stream, but I'm not an Imperium player. So if you're of the armies you're currently playing, I'm going to stop playing Space Marines, right? But that's not that's not a fair answer because that's not the same as what they're being asked. So I'd say Genestealer Cult. I don't actually like Genestealer Cult very much. I think a lot of their models look stupid. We kit bashed a lot of them to try to make them not look stupid. I don't like how they built that army. The new codex that we'll someday get, who knows how far out from now. That new codex maybe will give me playability and new stuff, and I'll be excited. But right now, if you told me I can't play Genestealer Cult for the next year, I'd be like, that seems fine. Okay. What is the best basing style, and why is it Goblin Green Rims with Green Grass Flock? I mostly just wanted to read that because it's funny. Most overrated faction and why? Man, my take on this is going to make people mad. Chuck, what's your most overrated faction and why?
I don't actually know.
Okay.
Trying to give an answer.
I think it's Necrons. And I'm not saying Necrons are bad, but Necrons are talked about on the internet like they are the most broken S tier thing ever, and they're just not. They're not bad. They're solidly Pack Plus, but they're not. But they're just not. They're just not S tier. They just don't have a good matchup against every army. They just don't.
Since we're saying stuff to make people mad, I'm going to say Blood Angels.
Okay.
I feel like everybody talks about them like they're White Scars, and they just don't have that flexibility. They come into sort of these narrow armies of this is a bunch of stuff that goes really fast and punches you, and if your opponent punches harder than you, you just lose. Whereas White Scars can maneuver that a little bit.
Okay.
So that's at least what I've seen and experienced.
Yeah, that makes sense. Mitch?
I haven't played against Necrons enough. Most overhyped faction. I mean, the easy answer is always Imperial Knights for me.
Because people love them even when they're terrible.
I don't think it could be overstated how bad Imperial Knights are.
Unless they have Forge World.
Well, even with Forge World, they're good then.
Yeah, they're good. Yeah,
they're good, but they're not great. And it's the kind of thing where I still use an Imperial Knight as like one of the standards for like, okay, what can X unit combo kill, right? But at the same time, because I use it as a standard, they're never a threat. They are a standard Space Marine faction, right? Like no one is ever afraid of a standard Space Marine on the board, ever. It's a bolter, it's a dude. Like, yes, they can be durable enough. There are tricks, there are good units available, there are good combos. But that is the army in a nutshell for Imperial Knights. Is like, I'm never afraid of them. I've never ever been afraid of them. Like they can splash into an army and be great, but they're on their own. I think that they are, unless you're ranking them as like just like the bare minimum gatekeeper. Anything above that is hype.
Okay. Well, there's a bunch of questions here that are about, I think, March Madness. And I think it's because there's a basketball team called Oral Roberts University, and I think people want us to make jokes about that. The problem is that the three of us do not follow college basketball, so we're just going to move on.
I laughed when there was a March Madness YouTube ad today, and I literally said aloud, I'm like, hey, Google, you're getting it wrong. Like, nope.
Well, it sounds like Roberts would probably enjoy it. So.
Yeah, right? What is the worst change from 8th to 9th? Mitch.
Ooh, the worst change.
I would like to predict Mitch's answer.
Go for it.
Mitch does not like the table size.
I mean, that wasn't where I was going to go, but I mean, that is, I don't like it. But I would actually say the worst change for me is how uncertain the correct ruling is on rules. Like, the worst change is that the app might say one thing, there might be an FAQ that says another thing, and then the power level FAQ says, no, you can take this many of a unit. As someone who's working on the back end to try and get like event stuff going and figure out how to have consistent rulings, it's really frustrating that you can have even high level players not necessarily realize that what they're doing is maybe illegal, probably illegal, who knows, right? Like that's really frustrating. I feel like we've taken a step backwards from 8 actually in rules clarity.
Yeah, Sean Naden won that big 100% tournament last weekend. And he had a mistake in the minimum size of his Razor Wing flocks, which would not have cost him the tournament. I talked to 2 of his opponents, but he did get it wrong, and it is very unclear what the right answer was going into the tournament. And the TO didn't point it out, and no one else pointed it out, and then he got crucified afterwards.
Well, and he had played that list at other tournaments already. So no one had caught it previously, and I'm not taking sides at all on this. I think it's a genuine example of...
It's a great example.
This is not clear, and I'm not trying to crucify like GW here. Their entire launch schedule has been messed up due to, again, things we talked about earlier in the show. So they may have not, like, why would you have a FAQ prepared for something that was supposed to be delivered 2 months ago? Like, it was going to be updated in that codex or whatever, right? I get why those oversights happen. I just feel a little frustrated that it is also at the same time just a blog post or a PDF of like, hey, like we hear you, sort of thing. But again, they're also not seeing the same number of events happen, so maybe that feedback just isn't in enough volume to trigger that. So I'm not trying to be like a naysayer, but it is frustrating that I feel like there are more questions on certain aspects of the game now than there were in 8.
Yeah, I actually think that Train is more confusing, which is not the direction I want.
Too.
Not the direction I wanted to go. Chuck, what's your answer?
That is my answer. It's terrain rules.
Yeah, they're confusing. And what terrain we're supposed to play on is very confusing too.
That's the core of it.
The bigger standard is not there.
When you're playtesting this game, what are you playing on?
Right.
Because that's what we want to be playing on Word of Tournament. That doesn't seem like it should be that hard to disclose.
Right. We played a bunch of games on WTC Terrain, and WTC Terrain makes the Demacaron list S tier. Because I can hide the Demacarons on the first turn.
Every time, yeah.
And when I go and we made that change because we realized that when we go to a store, we'll never have that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My answer is not that, though. My answer is... And my reason my answer is not that is because Train was bad before. So Train's bad again. Is it worse? Probably. But my bigger issue is... and I'm just going to say this and not rant about it, which is going to be hard for me because this is something I'm very frustrated by. It is 2021. I have an iPad that I take all of my work notes on. I read every book that I read on this. I do not use actual books. That isn't uncommon. That isn't strange. It isn't weird. Lots of people buy digital media for books. That's the way the world's gone. Publishers are pivoting quickly to try to figure out how to adapt to the world, as lots of people don't buy paper books anymore. GW is the only company I'm aware of that went backwards. I can get digital rules by buying their codex and putting a code into the app. I'm actually fine with that. I like the app. I like the searchable resource for finding rules. There is no ability for me to read that book digitally. So if I am out somewhere and I want to remind myself how my rules work, I have to look up the rules one by name. I can't just flip through and look at the book. There's no way to do that. I'd have to take pictures and make a PDF of it with my phone. I don't know. Yeah. So that is a massive mistake in my opinion, and I'm surprised it's not gotten more attention. That's actually my biggest thing.
100%.
Yeah. I want to pay them for a book. Digitally, just so we're clear.
We'll give you our money. Just let us do it in a format that's accessible.
And there was to DW's credit, there was widespread piracy. I had multiple people give me a link to a Google Drive. It's not a Google Drive, it's some share drive that has a PDF of every codex up till now, and that stopped because there isn't a digital version for people to steal from. That said,
hasn't stopped. It's just a PDF of pictures now.
Yeah, right. You can't stop piracy by worsening. You can't stop piracy by worsening the customer experience. That's something that video games learned forever ago.
It's something we learned with Napster and LimeWire.
Oh yeah.
We learned it in the late 90s and early 2000s. If you making it harder for your paying customer base to access your product does not deter piracy. Making it easier for your customer base to access your product actually does, because there are lots of people who are lazy and I will give you $5 instead of having to find the pirated version. They are happy to do that. It's not the issue right now is that they just decided to not do it at all, which is super weird.
Yeah, on the DRM side for software, there's a lot of really interesting studies on this that when I was at my last company, I was on the management team. We read a bunch of them trying to figure out how we were going to handle this. What the research is finding is that the vast majority of your customer base wants to play by the rules. You just can't make it hard. So, for example, and I'll take it to another topic. We're not going to talk about how illegal ChinaCast is, but ChinaCast is a great example of that. There's lots of customers that if GW produced more of the Forge World thing, there's a lot of people who would buy the Forge World thing over the ChinaCast thing that are buying the ChinaCast thing. Like, there's lots of people that would rather follow the rules, but when they can't, cheat. And I don't mean cheat. I don't mean cheat like my movement is 9 and it's actually 7. I don't mean cheat. I mean like there's not as many people that want to save themselves the money by breaking the rules. Anyways, moving on. Mitch, why are centaurs good at archery?
naturally stable position. They've got a kind of hip section right at their abdomen so that you're able to stabilize the upper torso so you can get a much more steady shot at a gallop.
Chuck, I knew he'd have a good answer. Go ahead.
They have good speed, and as we know, you're going to want to move out to get a good line of sight. So the speed allows you to pick better targets.
Okay, good. The rest of the questions are going to be Centaur related.
I mean, I assume so after that one.
No, I'm kidding. They're not.
At least you think they're not going to be.
When do you think we'll get our first 200-person event in the U.S.? I think probably that Atlantic City team tournament, right?
Yeah, I think June seems realistic.
I mean, I think June is probably the more realistic and safe thing to do. But my guess would be we'll see something near. So I'll go above 150 in May.
Oh wow, that's soon. If you were to start playing 40K competitively from a blank state, what would you do differently? Is there a particular army or archetype you'd be drawn to? I'll answer this one first because I've realized this very strongly. I am attracted to speed in my armies, like it's a crack fix, like it's cocaine and I need it. As I read through the Drukhari rules, I'm drawn to the speed. I just am drawn to it. And watching me play the Dark Angels army, Chuck was just like watching me fight myself. So, and knowing what I know now, I wouldn't buy a Dark Angels, which was my first army I bought. I wouldn't buy Guard, which was the second army I bought. I wouldn't own any Imperium. I would own all of the elves and all of the bugs. Chuck?
Ignoring current power levels, I would definitely say it works. I'm a hammer-fisted sort of player. I want to smash things. I think that's probably what I would focus in on. But also, like, you can't ignore the value of just playing Space Marines. Make up your own set of color schemes, and it doesn't matter where it flips meta-wise. You'll always have an army that's playable in some fashion. So I'd be torn between those things.
Mitch, you play the stuff you love. Do you have an answer for this?
Yeah, I mean, so if I'm taking it more as they're saying, if you're brand new, you don't know what you want, you don't know what should you start with, right? And I would say start with an army you love the models of.
They're asking you. Oh, they're asking you what you would start with.
Guard 100% of the time. Okay. But that's because I believe that the most important skill you can learn in 40K is the ability to pick up models off the table and not feel bad about it. Like, it is the most important skill for keeping you in the game, because no matter what that unit is, it's dead. You need to move on. And Guard, Orcs, Tyranids, any Horde army where you're going to be picking up lots of models teaches you that skill. And to me, I think it's the most valuable thing of like, oh, those 30 dudes are dead. Wasn't planning on that. Gonna just keep on trucking. Like I find that to be a really, really valuable thing. And I think that is the number one skill that contributes to having fun even when you're losing, is the ability to just be like, yep, that happened. So, yeah.
All right. I'm going to burn through a few of these for us here. What would a half centaur look like? We're all half centaurs. Also, horses are half centaurs. So you might look like a horse. What's the meaning of life? I think self-awareness and being a good human. What color is a mirror? No. When is a t-shirt officially too small? No using the wife or significant other judgment scale, as it doesn't apply in this situation. I have a lot of opinions on when is a shirt too small. As a person who's been fat since like 16 years old, I have 3 rules. First of all, I don't want you to see my nipples through my shirt. I'm not okay with that. Second of all, I don't want it to hug my gut in a way that makes me look more fat than I am and is uncomfortable rubbing against me as I move. 3, in my family, we have a thing called the doodle rule, which is that your shirt has to extend past your junk, because then when you go to reach things off top shelves, you don't show off stomach, which nobody's looking for from a fat man. How'd I do, Chuck?
You did good, assuming normal circumstances. Like if you're going out to the club, I mean, like, it never gets too tight.
Okay. I'm not sure that's true, but we're just going to move on. Unless Mitch has a hot take on this.
I mean, why are you wearing just a t-shirt? You should have a flannel over it. I mean,
that's a fair point. It's a fair point. Hold on, I don't understand this question. Man, I don't have any idea what this means. Okay. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, the doors and entryways features prominent imagery, most notably around the slaying of Humbaba and the eventual death of Enkidu. In what ways are these and other similar plot points connected? What do the doors symbolize? I have to say that I have no idea what any of that means. Anybody?
They're clearly a symbol of growth or change. The world keeps spinning, things keep happening, and each of those is sort of setting a beginning and an end, which is a fallacy of the human mind that things have beginnings and ends, which relates directly to any sort of god-type figure, which is also
well, yeah, and it really is. It kind of puts into the whole reason we construct these beings that continue on past us is in a way, it's a way to try and symbolize that we don't understand that we end. But yeah, no, I think Chuck hit all the major points.
I thought it was
on a short range. I could say it's because Zeech says so.
I thought it was the juxtaposition between the industrialization of the 18th century against the decrease of agriculture. I thought that's what. No, let's just move on.
What you got there is an industry agricultural centaur.
Yes,
where
that's
you have
right.
the industry propping up the centaur.
Yes, that's right.
Well, yeah, you have the combine to make up the hooves, and then.
Okay. They're asking us what our terrain is like and what makes it abnormal and what affects our games. We've talked about this a lot. We played too much with the WTC terrain. We've moved off that. I now think we need to pay more attention to where doorways and windows are. I need some different terrain, so we're going to work on that. We need some more variety.
We'll have a solution for that soon enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of what we have is we use a lot of the frontline orc village kit, and then we have some Nasundry ruins and foresty things that we've just gotten over the years.
Right. You get to pick any one model kit for a resculpt. What is it?
Ooh.
I'm saying Eldar Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
Because I love Eldar Rangers, and the fact that all of mine have shotguns now is really sad. But I would also love a new Avatar of Cain. I would also love... It's all Eldar for me. All the Craft World stuff. A lot of it needs new models.
Non-Cadian Guard Squad for me.
Okay.
Like more of a Karsakin or some other like more generic design that wasn't necessarily associated with the specific world.
Okay.
Noise Marines?
That's a good call. Good call.
I think they could be really amazing, and they're decent, but they could blow your mind.
Right. Okay. For CSM, what would you like to see added to the model range? I have no answer for this question. Chuck?
A decent set of rules.
Oh, hell.
I did it. I think I would love it if CSM was Space Marines who are backed by a bunch of demonic engines. But we have enough demonic engines, we have enough Space Marine kits to do that. So that's really, I don't think any could be added.
Dark AdMech.
It's there.
AdMech.
We have like 5 demon engines. That's Dark AdMech.
I need more. So much more. The only way I will ever play Chaos is if there's an actual Dark AdMech faction.
Release something that has trim on its trim. I think that's what Chaos players really want. That gives you that grid tortured feel.
The final question is, can you comment on Jack Ruby's role in the JFK assassination? And the answer is we cannot.
Officially, I'm not allowed to.
Yes, we're not
literally have to kill you.
We're not allowed to talk about that. All right, guys. 2 hours, 23 minutes.
Ooh, nice.
That's where we're at. We talked about a lot.
Content.
I think this was some great content, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. I have to say, I am one part jealous that you got to go to an event, and then the other part of me is just really excited to hear about an event, right? Like, it's just, I don't know.
You know what? I know. If you guys have made it this far, if you've listened to us for 2 hours and 24 minutes and you're thinking, I really like this, guys, and you're not in our Patreon group, that's probably a mistake.
I mean, like, there's only like 7 people here at this point, so definitely, if you're not a patron, you should be one, because like the level of dedication is almost host.
If you're enjoying this, you would also enjoy a Patreon.
I've noticed that the people viewing drops off when we go long, but it's probably because it's like Sunday, and when they start watching, they don't realize we're asking them for 2.5 hour long commitment, and they've got stuff to do.
They also are like, lightning round, I'm out.
I also think that Nick is probably playing in the finals at a GT right now. That's probably on stream. I don't know if it's on stream.
I hope he wins.
I know that Naden Zeldar lost this morning. I know that. Nick's playing Sisters, for those that are wondering. Okay, Patreon group. Patreon.com/BiffPod. $5 a month. Gets you in there. 40 channels. 200
so
people.
many centaurs.
There's a channel called Small Blood, which is all offbeat, weird humor, and lots of centaur jokes. There's a chat called Star Wars, where we talk about Star Wars. There's a 40K chat for every single faction that we talk in. Pointy Ears chat is very busy right now. We have a rumors and news channel that tells you all of the leaks every time. We've had the Drukhari rules since Thursday, Friday.
From outside sources.
Come join us. They're not from anybody that's going to get in trouble. They were from the internet. Wherever on the internet they have come from, that's where we found them. Lots of them were. The great part was I woke up on Friday to Spanish leaks for Drukhari. And I'm like, what do I do with these? And then there's a guy in our Discord that's like, well, I translate them for you. And I'm like, okay. And I sat there as he read them and just typed out. And it was just great.
The best part is then you were like, how about Italian?
I know.
Because you found Italian leaks.
Then we got all the stratagems in Italian. And I'm like, okay. Yes. Biblioteca. Yes. Okay.
Donde está?
Yes, donde está la biblioteca? So, if you'd like to join our Patreon group, we'd love to have you. We've been steadily growing the last few months. Most of COVID was pretty quiet, but it's been growing. If you'd like to follow us on Twitch, it's twitch.tv/BIFPOD. YouTube is youtube.com/C for channel/BIFPOD. You can find us all over the place. We are streaming our games to both Twitch and YouTube. Wednesday night, 4 o'clock Pacific, I will be playing Drukhari against Chaos. A week from Saturday, I'm going to try to do a stream event of some sort for Drukhari. So about 2 weeks from now. So that when we have our next episode, which is 2 weeks from today, we can talk about actual game experience with Drukhari. I don't know whether that's going to be an RTT that I take a Drukhari list to, that we pretend about like we did with Sisters, or it might literally just be Chuck comes over and I play 3 different Drukhari lists. I don't know. Chuck's laughing a lot.
Figure it out.
I took the label off a water bottle because I'm using it in a diorama to make a column, and I put it in a small pile that I thought I would take out later. The cat sat on it, and now she has a label stuck to her butt, and it's tearing all around the house. Like a centaur who's been spooked.
Well, that's great.
Spooky centaurs.
I like that a lot.
That'll be my army theme.
Exactly right. The rest of the army will be centaur related. Okay, so
oh god, I'm gonna introduce them all.
Now you got to turn your fast tech and your heavy support into it. So when you're reading your list, if you finish the elites, you can be like, well, the rest of the army will be centaur related.
You realize that you have to make all of the bad horse puns, Mitch, from Dr. Horrible.
Oh yeah. Oh, of course.
My favorite being, or he'll make you his mare, is my favorite part of that.
Yeah.
Of that. Oh no, it's not. I don't want that. I don't know a lot about horses, but I know that is not a thing that I want. That's what I know. Okay, guys, this has been a heck of a lot of fun. I hope you all enjoyed as well. We love you all. We love this. We love doing it. We're going to get information out for that local GT in July, relatively soon, so you guys can get signed up and we can talk about getting people out here for that. Charity Hammer, August 5th through 8th, unless COVID gets much worse between now and June. All right, guys. Thank you so much, everybody. Let us know what you want us to talk about in the future, and we'll talk to you all later. Bye now.
Bye.